Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Sorry, just one sec. Okay, I just had to take out my monitor because I was getting a little bit of speech jamming going on. Hi, thank you for joining us. For those of you who are new to my channel, my name is Jackson. I'm a streamer from the UK, and this is my good friend Barik. Say hello, Barik.
Hello, Bert.
Perfect.
How's everyone doing today? I'm Burrick, as Buck mentioned. I am a streamer from Ireland, even though I don't sound like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And today we've got something very special for you, something I've been planning for at least 2 days now. We're going to be taking you through an introduction to Pathfinder 2nd Edition, because I know that there's a lot of people in my following who are interested in role-playing games, but possibly haven't had the chance to try them out, or don't know what the deal is with them. Hello, Green Clonk. Hello, Jen Zuko. Hello, is that Sim Puppy Tuber? Nice to have you all here. For anybody who wants to follow along at home, if you type in !Pathfinder into the chat, it will Stream Elements will give you a little link to Archives of Nethys, which is the site I'll be using. And actually, I should have set something up for like a proper so people could download a character sheet. Too late for that now. It's fine. So yeah, glad to have you all here. I think, should we start with the very basics, like what is a role-playing game? Because that is actually the first, if we look at the core rulebook in the introduction section.
We definitely should, because there's always going to be a couple of people who just have no idea what it is.
Entirely new to the hobby, yeah.
Right before we do that, I am going to raid your channel, so we'll be hosting you and bringing over some people who follow me by Twitch notifications.
Perfect. Raiding with a party of one. Hello, Raiders.
Yeah. Hello, Raiders.
Okay, so I have actually, I've written out some stuff. This stream is not, I promise, this stream is not just going to be me reading stuff out, reading text out. There will be audience participation. So don't worry about that. But for now, I will just quickly read over this little spiel that I got. A role-playing game, for those of you unfamiliar, is an interactive story, a collaborative experience where several people come together to construct a narrative together. There are many different styles of this hobby, but the most common one is the one pioneered by like Dungeons and Dragons, where one player assumes the role of the game master or narrator or referee sometimes. There are many different terms for the role, and each of the other players makes a single character. The game master will describe the scenario, the scene, the setting, and ask the players, what do you do? At which point the players will have to imagine how their characters will respond to any obstacles that they come across. Pathfinder is a game, it's about fantasy settings, about heroes rising from humble origins to face ferocious monsters and terrifying threats. That isn't to say that you can't tell other sorts of story in the game, but like many role-playing games, Pathfinder is really customizable. Like the book makes a very big point to emphasize that the game is yours, and you shouldn't feel like if a rule doesn't make things fun, you should just your group should just consider cutting it, you know. But as much as you can like customize and tweak rule systems, if you're straying too far away from the basic principle of heroes fight monsters and find treasure, you'd probably be better off finding a different game that's more suited to those sorts of narratives. And they do exist. They do exist. I want to show off some later this year, but there's tons of role-playing games for all different sorts of genres. So whatever kind of story you want to tell, there will be a system that is out there to support you. But Pathfinder is best suited for high fantasy, action adventure kind of things. Okay?
You can think of it sort of like a framework, I guess.
Yeah, it's sort of like the scaffolding. It's like the the base upon which you build. The rules are there to like facilitate fun. It's not a game in the conventional sense because like you're not trying to win, and you're not like strictly adhering to the rules. But no, yeah, it's a structure. It's sort of like the make believe games you would play all the time on the playground as a kid. But you know,
We've made it adult by putting math into it.
Exactly. But yeah, it stops that one really annoying kid who says they have an everything proof shield by sort of codifying the rules of engagement and having everybody agree on a set of rules.
It tells you exactly how you get the everything proof shield.
Yes. We will, if I can remember, if there is such a spell in this game or such a feature, I'm sure somebody will tell me. But yeah, it's basically just like a make believe game where you build a character and one guy says, you know, you find yourself in yon dungeon. You see a flask. Obvious exits are north, south, and Dennis. What wouldst thou do?
I pick up the flask and I throw it at Dennis.
You can't get you flask.
No.
But yeah, that's basically the thing. The basic mechanic, because it is a game, you need game mechanics to make it a game. The basic mechanic is the D20 roll. We use dice in lots of role-playing games to add randomness, because randomness adds uncertainty, and uncertainty adds tension. So if there is ever a point at which your character might fail at a task, you roll dice to determine your chance of success. I will get into the specifics of when and how to roll dice later. But I think the best thing to do would actually be to show you what a character sheet looks like in Pathfinder 2nd Edition, so that you can, and we'll go through it. We'll go through character creation step by step, and I'll tell you what everything does every little point. And Boric is going to be my stooge and ask me to clarify anything that's unclear.
Teacher, what's a Pathfinder?
So, the name of the game actually comes from a group of characters in the core setting. The Pathfinder Society is essentially like the Adventurers Guild.
I wasn't actually expecting a proper answer. Thank you.
Well, the title of the game, Pathfinder, comes from the Pathfinder Society, who are these adventurers that... because the world that they occupy has many ancient secrets left to be uncovered. So the Pathfinders are the ones who go out and find the paths to these ancient secrets.
Perfect.
So, that's that.
Satisfactory. Yeah, that works.
Okay. So, what I'll do is I will just start up the... I will show you what the character sheet looks like. Give me 1 second. Ba-dum. Now, this is going to look intimidating at first, and I do not blame you at all. There are a lot of boxes on this sheet, and it's very, very dense. If I had one criticism about the Pathfinder game, it's that there's a lot you have to remember. But it is structured. There is like a logic to it, and I will explain that as we go. Okay, Boric, you have a character sheet downloaded and ready to go, don't you?
That I do.
Okay. I might actually stop doing the virtual camera to you, because I realise I'm now up to 8% skipped frames due to encoding lag, and I think the virtual camera is probably eating up most of those. So,
yeah, that's fair. You can stop that.
So if you just hang about in the chat... Ooh, up to 10%. Come on.
Oh dear.
Come on. Come on, OBS. Come on, OBS.
You can do it, OBS. You got this.
Yeah. So this is the official character sheet for Pathfinder 2nd Edition. There are... A lot of fans have made their own versions. I will... Oh, Boric. You've gone green. You've gone green, Boric.
Have I gone green? Have I gone green? Uh-oh. Hold on. That was my fault. 1 second. Has that gotten it any better?
You're no longer green. You're now just invisible. Okay. But yeah, while you sort that out, I will sort of go over a couple of things. Yeah.
Oh,
So
we're turning off the virtual camera, right? Are you putting me onto like a
oh no,
PNG or something?
I was stopping streaming to you over Discord, but I can also do this
Oh,
instead.
right.
Just the reactive image. That's fine.
Yeah, I think reactive image is probably better.
Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of information here. So it is kind of scary to look at, but don't worry. There is a logic to it, and I will take you through it step by step. There are also lots of people out there who make their own versions, like for people with dyslexia, because as you can probably imagine, this sort of thing is a nightmare for people who don't have very good visual processing. But your character has a few traits. Let me quickly get rid of that. Go back to Chrome. So if I go to basics of play, I think that's this one. Yeah. Players take on the role of player characters, while the Game Master portrays non-player characters and monsters. So this is now the list of characteristics that define player characters and monsters and things. Each character has a level, which is a scale from 1 to 20, which determines like roughly how powerful they are, with 1 being the lowest. You start out at level 1, you gradually gain power and get up to level 20. Experience points are the mechanic by which you do that. You fight monsters and find treasure and disarm traps, and that gets you those things all get you experience points. And when you have 1,000 experience points, you level up. That's one thing that Pathfinder does. Pathfinder 2nd Edition does differently, is that it's always 1,000 experience to level up. And
I was gonna ask that. In most other RPGs, it's usually an ever increasing amount, but it's 1,000 every time in Pathfinder.
It's always 1,000, but the higher your level becomes, the less experience you get from facing lower level challenges.
Okay.
So,
okay.
For example, fighting a goblin at first level might be 30 or 40 experience if you're first level. But by the time you get to 5th level, that might only be 10 experience.
Fair enough. So there is still a curve to it, but...
There is still a curve to it. There is still a curve. But it's not like the exponential graphs that you see in some other systems. Next we have the ability scores. Anybody who's played Dungeons & Dragons before, or Pathfinder 1st Edition, probably recognizes these. These are the 6 sort of fundamental aspects of your character. So your strength, dexterity, and constitution. These are the physical scores. Your intelligence, wisdom, and charisma are your mental scores. And these 6 statistics are the stats from which most other numerical values in the game are derived. Ability scores for ordinary folk range from 3 to 18. With 18 is like the 10 is average. So 10 doesn't give you any benefit or penalty. 18 is like as good as most normal people get, but then legendary characters can go up to 20 or even higher. Yes, an ability score that's above average can increase your chance of success, while those below the average decrease your chance. I will get into how you calculate those in just a second. Or when we get to it.
Yeah.
Your player character is also defined by some key choices you make. The first choice is your ancestry, which represents your character's parents and heritage, which could be human, elf, or goblin. For the sake of this stream, I am restricting Burrick only to options that are present in the core rulebook. There are a bunch of expansions for Pathfinder 2nd Edition by this point, but to keep it simple, we're just doing the core ancestries and the core classes, because for most character concepts, you don't need anything more than that. It's only if you get a really specific idea of something that you want to do.
Well, darn, there goes my idea for the smoke sylph.
Well, you've been looking at other stuff, have you?
No, I just looked through the list and thought that sounded cool.
Fair enough.
I'm fine with the core everything. I'm
So
sure we can make something interesting.
the core ancestries are dwarf, elf, gnome, goblin, halfling, and human. And each of them has a number of heritages, which are like the specific kind of elf or dwarf you are. For example, like a hill dwarf versus a mountain dwarf, or a high elf versus a dark elf. There are half elves and half orcs in Pathfinder, but they are heritages of humans. So you choose to be a human, and then you pick the half elf or half orc heritage rather than them being their own ancestries.
Interesting.
You've also got your character's background, which describes their upbringing, which is basically it's a summary of all the stuff they were doing before they decided to go on adventures.
Yeah, the off-camera stuff.
The off-camera stuff, yeah. It's like how your character got those skills before they decided to put on the armor and go out and hunt monsters and whatever. And then, finally and most importantly, a player character's class. I need to make sure that my antlers aren't in the way of this when I'm streaming. Player character's
all in the way of it. You might want to scroll up a bit.
Yeah. Player character's class defines the majority of their aptitudes and abilities, like a wizard's command of powerful arcane spells or a druid's power to transform into a fearsome beast. In addition to these key choices, characters also have a number of feats, which are individual and granular specific abilities that gain in power, selected during character creation and as the character increases in level. One thing about Pathfinder 2 in comparison to some other systems is the character creation is really granular. You get a lot of you get to make a lot of choices, and basically every choice is done with feats. That's sort of like the feats are sort of like the modules that you slot in.
As opposed to what you used to get from dungeon to dungeon, which are feats.
Those, yes, your feats. Most characters only have 2 feats, but they'll get dozens of feats, F-E-A-T-S, by the time they get to 20th level. And finally, characters have skills, which measure their ability to hide, swim, bargain, and perform other tasks. So if I go back to the character sheet, you'll see here are where the ability scores go. This is where you record your ancestry, heritage, background, and class. But those will each have information that leads into lower down section. Here's a summary of the skills: acrobatics, athletics, diplomacy, intimidation, medicine, all these sorts of things. These are skills. And then this is where you list your feats. You get them from your ancestry, from your class, and you can also get skill feats and general feats. So that's those. And I'll go into more detail about each thing when we come to it, as we go through character creation step by step. So, sorry, my computer is acting up.
Uh-oh.
Right. So, the first thing to do when you're making a character is to... Oh, I should turn this off. Boop. The first thing to do when creating character is to come up with a concept. It doesn't have to be anything like super specific. It could be just, I want to play a knight in armor who uses a sword and a shield. Or it could be something really complex, like I want to play a detective who uses necromantic magic to commune with the dead in order to find his father's murderer. Something like that. Whatever you choose to do, the concept is the thing that comes first. You can keep your concept fairly flexible, but the level of granularity that you have with character building and customization is such that you don't need to worry too much about it being overly specific, because most things are possible in the game. So, Burrick, you came up with the character concept before you arrived, didn't you?
Some degree. I wasn't sure what races and such we were going to be looking at, so I didn't want to look too deeply into it.
Okay.
But people who know me probably have already guessed this, and I've hinted at it on Twitter. I will be playing some form of rogue
Perfect.
that specializes mostly in the hiding part of the whole rogue thing.
Yeah. Okay, that's a good place to start. You've got quite a broad concept, and we can get more specific about it as we go along. I'm also going to be building a character as we go. I'll tell you what, actually, because we got people in chat. Should we put it to audience vote?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd be happy enough with the audience.
Okay.
Pushing me along. Yeah.
So, audience. Oh, I can actually do like polls and stuff on Twitch, can't I? Hang on.
Hell yeah, you can. I have no idea how, but you can.
Let's try this. Okay. Question. What? We'll start with the class. Because that is more important than any of the other choices.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's limited to 5 options though, so I will try and group these up. So, what about? Okay, there are 12 / poll. Okay, I have the thing open, so I can manage this. I just have to like decide. Decide.
How to group them?
Yeah.
You could do multiple like tiers of polls. So like.
No, I think what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna like like choose a specific. Sorry, I keep trying to talk and type at the same time, and that never ends well.
No,
okay.
That's never good.
There are 12 different classes in this game. Alchemist, Barbarian, Bard, Champion, Cleric, Druid, Fighter, Monk, Ranger, Rogue, Sorcerer, or Wizard. So I'm going to group them Wild, which is going to be Barbarian, Druid, and Ranger. Bob, Drew, Ran. The next one is going to be skillful, which is going to be Bard / Rogue. The next one is going to be Holy, which is going to be Cleric / Paladin. They're called champions in this game. Paladins are a specific subset. Then we'll have like Martial, which will be Fighter / Monk. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'm still missing 3. Am I? Oh, yeah. Okay, so that's going to be the last one is going to be like Spookums. No, it's just going to be spells, which is going to be the Alchemist, the Sorcerer, and the Wizard. So I'll start that poll. It'll go on for 1 minute, and then we'll see what class we should play. Each of the classes has like a couple of specific things that they really excel at, so that they dedicate to one area while allowing other areas to slip. Other expansions have come out, which include more classes. So we recently got the Gunslinger and Inventor, both of which are really cool classes. And then previously we got the Magus, which is like a sword mage, and the Summoner, who's like almost like a stand user. They have like a special ghost that they use to punch things.
That's so perfect. I'm tempted to ask to make one of them, but no, I'm sticking to the rogue.
We're sticking to the core classes. Oh, and look, the the poll has ended, and 100% of the votes went for skillful. So,
Yeah.
I don't want to also be a rogue, so I'm going to make a bard. Does that sound good?
I'd imagine that's what everyone was hoping for anyway.
Yes. You can smite with any spell. Yeah, Magus is tons of fun. I love Magus. And they did a lot of really cool stuff in 2nd edition to make it really flexible in comparison to the 1st edition iteration. Okay, so we've got our concept. I'm gonna play a bard. I will play a wandering minstrel who uses their whose penchant for gambling often gets them into trouble, but whose silver tongue can get them out of it just as quickly. That's going to be my character.
Excellent. That's a good classic bard.
Good classic bard. Okay, so I have a form-fillable character sheet open in Acrobat Reader. So I will do that here. And I will go class bard. And you can follow along at home. But we'll now take a look at ancestries. If we go here. Your character's ancestry determines which people they call their own, whether it's diverse and ambitious humans, insular but vivacious elves, traditionalist and family-focused dwarves, or any of the other folk who call Galarion home. Oh yeah, Galarion is the name of the core campaign setting. I might go into that a little bit, but I usually just use homebrew settings because I find it more fun to make my own world.
Yeah, that's right. But I feel like a lot of people usually use some level of homebrew world.
But if you're just getting started, I would honestly really recommend looking into the Galarion stuff because Pathfinder has been going for many, many years now, so there is tons of information about all areas of Galarion. So even if you're not planning on running an entire campaign in this setting, there's a lot of really creative world building that could help spark something, or maybe you could just tweak things, make it your own version of Galarion. You don't need to worry about being faithful to canon when it comes to playing a role-playing game.
True.
Okay, so the core ancestries are the dwarf, elf, gnome, goblin, halfling, human, and I'll tell you what I'll do. I feel like playing who do I feel like playing? I feel like playing a gnome. So I'll show you what the ancestry entries look like. So what information you'll be presented with and how to find what you're actually looking for. Oh, Chrome has decided to be really slow now. Hello, Jake with 2Js. Thanks for joining us. So,
GG.
We start off with like a description of what the people are like. Always hungry for new experiences, gnomes constantly wander both mentally and physically, attempting to stave off a terrible ailment that threatens all of their people. This affliction called the bleaching strikes gnomes who fail to dream, innovate, and take in new experiences. Oh yeah, that's a fun thing about gnomes. Gnomes in this setting can die of boredom.
Poor guys.
Yeah, they're fairies, so they're functionally immortal. But if they're not constantly seeking like new experiences, they can die of boredom. Yeah, the bleaching slowly drains the color from gnomes, and it plunges those affected into states of deep depression that eventually claim their lives. So yeah, it'll give you a couple of little paragraphs about what your chosen ancestry is like. It will give you... I really love these little role-playing tips that it gives. Like, you might embrace learning and hop from one area of study to another without warning, rush into action before fully taking stock of the entire situation, speak, think, and move quickly, and lose patience with those who can't keep up. And others probably appreciate your enthusiasm and the energy, struggle to understand your motivations, or see you as unpredictable, flighty, unreliable, or even reckless. So it's got you some little character prompts, and the class entries also have these little prompts that tell you what your personality might be like, as well as how other people might see you. You've got a physical description. Gnomes stand just over 3 feet in height and weigh little more than a human child. Society, alignment, and religion, and then there's some advice for adventurers. So it'll tell you which sort of backgrounds you might be looking for, or which kind of classes are good fits for your character. And then finally, down at the bottom, we have the mechanics. So I will talk through all of these things quickly. Hit points. At first level, you get hit points from your ancestry as well as from your class. At every subsequent level, you only get hit points from your class. Each ancestry has a different hit point value. I think it's only 6, 8, or 10. So less hardy races get only 6. More durable races get 10, and characters who are somewhere in the middle get 8. Size, small. Most creatures, or most humanoid creatures in the game, most like people, are medium-sized. Anybody smaller than that is small or tiny, and anybody larger than that, it can be large, huge, or even bigger. Your speed is the amount of distance you can cover in a single movement. For most characters, it's 25 feet. Some people are slower than that. Some people are faster. Yes. I might talk about level 0 games in a bit, actually. Green Clonk. Because there is like an optional rule in the Game Mastery Guide about level 0 games specifically, but we'll get into that. Your speed is also used for calculations like how fast you can travel over land, like if you're going on a long walk, among other things. Like what it means to, what it means to be fast. Each ancestry gives ability boosts and ability flaws. So the ability boosts for gnomes are Constitution and Charisma, and the flaws are Strength, and for most races you also get 1 free boost. For some races you get more than 1. I think humans are the only ones that get more than 1. And some ancestries don't have any flaws, but most have 1. It tells you which languages you can pick. Languages are more of a setting thing than they are like a mechanical thing. But in general, most creatures speak the common tongue. Gnomish is for gnomes, and Sylvan is the language of forest creatures. And you also get low light vision, which means you can see in dim light as though it were bright light. So you ignore the concealed condition due to dim light. And I will explain what that means again. I feel like I'm just sticking post-it notes all over the place and saying...
we'll come back to this.
We'll come back to this, yes. Yes, humans are the only ones with 2 free boosts. Other character, I think Kitsune and Tengu both get 2 boosts, one of which is free and no flaws, but they don't get the 3rd boost. So, yeah, humans get 2 free boosts and no flaw, and some races get 2 boosts with no flaw, but no 3rd boost.
And free just means you get to choose one of your own?
You pick which ability score it goes into.
Cool.
Right. So that's that. That's our ancestry. Now, and because I think every race gets at least 1 free boost, that means that you can really customize your character, and you don't have to worry too much about like picking the optimal combination of ancestry and class.
That's actually something I was going to mention later, is that although there's a lot of mechanical stuff around this, it's not always a good idea to like pick something to optimize your build or something.
I mean,
I would say
if that's the way somebody enjoys playing, then sure. That's more power to you. But like, that's not the way I enjoy playing the game. So Jake with 2 J's in the chat, one of my moderators, is playing in a game that I run weekly with an asterisk, and 2 of the players in this game decided they wanted to play flawed characters, and so although they were good at the game, they knew how to build characters, but they deliberately made bad decisions. This really came back to bite them, but it made for some very interesting stories while it lasted. And that's the thing, is flawed characters can be interesting too. Like, it's okay if you want to make a super optimal character, but at the same time, it's like, flawed characters can be interesting too, or even more interesting. So yeah, I would say, like, as long as your your ancestry's ability flaw isn't one of your characters, one of the abilities your character relies on, you probably don't need to worry too much about picking an ancestry. It's just like, play what you think. Play what you think is fun, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I'm gonna play a gnome. When you pick an ancestry, you also get to pick a heritage, like I say. So for gnomes, for example, we could be a chameleon gnome. The color of your hair and skin is mutable. You can slowly change the vibrancy and the exact color, and the coloration can be different across your body. So that gives you, like, stealth bonuses. You could be a Fey Touch gnome, which is you become a fairy, and you get a spell for free. This one is you gain a special sense, because your senses are so. See all colors as brighter, hear all sounds as richer, and especially smell all scents with incredible detail. So that allows you to detect creatures with smell. Hey, PDAC, thanks for joining us. Yeah,
hello.
We're just picking ancestry at the moment. I'm gonna play a gnome. I'm playing a gnome bard. And yeah. So most of these are core rulebook options. Some of them are character guide options. I'm limiting stuff to core rulebook features for this stream, for myself and Barak at least. If you're playing along at home, feel free to pick whatever you want. So I think what would be good for my bard. What would be good? Do I want to be a... I really like the idea of a chameleon gnome, honestly. Just being this guy that can completely change color. I feel like that would work well for a bard. Like, it could play into his performances.
Very flashy, for sure.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, I'll be a chameleon gnome. So in Ancestry and Heritage up here, I'm going to put Chameleon Gnome. That's gonna be my me. And what it says, when you're in an area where your coloration is roughly similar to the environment, you can use a single action to make minor localized shifts to help you blend into your surroundings. This grants you a +2 circumstance bonus to stealth. Okay, so I will put a pin in that. One thing I will mention actually at this point is the different modes of play that exist in Pathfinder 2nd Edition. Because one of the major changes to this over previous editions that I really like is the revised action economy. In encounter time, which is it can be combat, or it can be like if you're in a back and forth dialogue with a trying to negotiate something with a merchant, or anything that's like action time rather than free-flowing exploration time. You can take up to 3 actions on your turn, and up to 1 reaction. And you can combine those 3 actions into activities. I will... Wait, hang on. Sorry, I just need to find which towel I'm getting on. Yeah, here we are. Modes of play. Encounters are more structured. The players and game master roll initiative to determine who acts in what order. The encounter occurs over a number of rounds. A lot of this terminology will be familiar if you've played Pathfinder 1st edition or any edition of Dungeons & Dragons. But this is the thing that's like really sets it apart. Is you get 3 actions and 1 reaction and free actions that don't count towards the number of actions. Most simple things, such as drawing a weapon, moving a short distance, opening a door, or swinging a sword, use a single action to perform. But more complicated actions, you can combine 2 into activities that use more than a single action. So, casting a spell is the most common, which usually uses 2 actions. So, if it was your turn, you could spend 2 actions to cast a spell and then also move, or hit somebody with your sword, but you couldn't do all 3. So you've got to decide how you're going to use your actions. You've got to be smart about these things. But we'll go more into that as we get on, because there are basic actions that can be performed by everybody, and then you also will probably get some specific actions from feats or class features. Like, for example, if we go to classes, let's open up the Bard page actually, because I'm going to need this anyway. So I'll scroll down and I will okay, I'm just looking out for that little symbol, that little split square symbol, because that will tell you that this is an action that you can do. I don't know if Bard has any actually. Give me a second. I have the physical book here actually, sitting on a stand in front of me that I'm using to refer to whenever I'm getting stuck. Oh yeah, okay. Reach spell is one. So reach spell has this little action symbol here. So this is a single action that you can take. You can extend the range of your spells. So you spend 1 action to cast a spell that you can increase its range. And because, like we said, the casting a spell is usually 2 actions, this would be your 3rd action in a turn. So it would take your entire... Oh, excuse me. It would take your entire turn to cast a spell with reach.
Yeah, so you could do that, cast a spell, but then you couldn't move.
Then you couldn't move or anything like that. But similarly, if you want to move, you could move 3 times, or you could attack 3 times, or you could move twice and attack once, or you could move once and cast a spell, or you could cast a spell and then move. It's really flexible in that regard, and there's a lot of cool activities that you can get access to, and also that monsters get access to. Like, I love GMing for this system because thinking about the tactics in combat is really good. Like, you have to, when you're trying to build encounters, you have to think about what actions enemies are going to use at which time, and it's just fun. I really like it.
It is really nice.
Right. So where were we? Oh yeah, this was all to explain this. You can use it takes a single action for minor localized shifts and up to an hour for dramatic shifts throughout your body. So you can spend 1 action in combat to gain this +2 bonus to stealth, which is kind of cool. So that's what I get. You also get to take 1 feat from your ancestry. So again, I'm going to limit to core rulebook stuff. Animal accomplice. You build a rapport with an animal which becomes magically bonded to you. Burrow elocutionalist. You recognize the chittering of ground creatures as its own peculiar language. So these are all these feats. You get an ancestry feat at 1st level, and then again at... Let me just double check this. I think it's every 5 levels, or... Oh, no, sorry. It's every 4 levels after the first. So it's 1, 5, 9, 13, 17. Oh, okay, no, that's an advanced player's guide. I was just thinking this. The way you cringe or use those puppy dog eyes, you've been practicing, elicits an empathetic response in the attacker. But yeah, you get to pick one feat from your ancestry, and then you get more as you level up. What do I feel like picking?
Well, the magically bonded animal
Accomplice.
does sound pretty good.
Yeah.
Let's see.
You gain a familiar. Yeah. You know what? I'll get an animal accomplice. So on my character sheet, let me just make my character sheet visible. Zip. On my character sheet, yeah. If I go over to the second page, and then in the left-hand column, right at the top here, this is ancestry feats. So feat first is going to be animal accomplice. Special first and heritage first are some ancestries give you a feat to start off with, and some heritages give you a feat to start off with. But for most characters, you're only going to need these 5 boxes. So I'll get animal accomplice. Right. So how are you? What are you thinking, Barak, for your thief, for your rogue?
Well, no, I was looking at some of the other gnomes.
Oh yeah.
And not necessarily gonna pick another gnome.
Okay.
Don't always need more than one gnome in one party, but Umbral Gnome, or Svrfneblin, as I love to say, they do sound fairly interesting.
Yeah, they get dark vision.
Mm-hmm. And dark vision would be real handy.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that sounds like a lot of fun. And gnomes do get... they get a bonus to Constitution and Charisma. And Charisma is really good for rogues, because just like for bards, it can help you talk your way out of a paper bag.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was thinking. When the dex fails, fall back on the charisma.
And your free boost is obviously going in dexterity.
Oh, hell yeah. But I think I should have a quick look at maybe some of the other races just to see where we're going. Like Goblin could be interesting.
Goblins are fun.
Goblin heritages.
Yeah. I really like that they made Goblin a core ancestry in this edition, because like goblins are super fun. Like, look at this guy eating a pickle. Look at this guy.
Exactly.
He's fun.
That's the exact energy you should be going for in your daily life.
He's just got a cauldron full of salad, maybe.
We hope.
We hope. Yeah. So goblins get fewer hit points than gnomes do. They get an innate boost to dexterity, but they do get a flaw to wisdom, which is will penalize perception checks. They also start with dark vision. So all goblins start with dark vision. Let's take a look at the heritages.
Yes.
You could be an iron gut, which you can eat. Basically, you can eat anything. You get a +2 circumstance bonus to saving throws against afflictions, against gaining the sickened condition, and to remove the sickened condition. So basically, you don't get sick anywhere nearly as badly. And as long as garbage is readily available, you can keep yourself fed with poor meals in a settlement.
Which would be fairly handy for traveling.
Yeah.
Now I've scrolled down a little bit, and oh no, that's character guide. Darn it.
Yeah, sorry.
No.
Were you looking at tailed goblin for the climb bonus?
I was looking at tailed goblin.
Well,
bonus, athletics checks, and climb bonus.
Yeah, I mean, no, I'm not gonna break my rules. We're sticking to core rulebook stuff.
No, we're sticking to core rulebook. It's fine. I'll just stare wistfully at it.
You could be a razor-tooth goblin to get a tooth attack. So even if you're unarmed, just munch people.
Beats. Ankle bite.
Yep.
I love it.
Charhide goblin. You gain a resistance to fire. This also leads to this interesting feat where goblins... goblins can set themselves on fire as a weapon. Charhide goblins, because they're resistant to fire, they weaponize it. So they just, you can light yourself thoroughly on fire and use yourself as a...
yourself in kerosene and run at a person, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, well, alright. Goblins do sound interesting. Let's see. I think I'm still leaning towards Sverfneblin.
Okay.
But I don't want to do elf. I've already done an elf rogue in another game. Halfling is kind of classic for halfling rogue.
Oh, I own a copy of the Advanced Dungeons and Dragons 2nd edition player's handbook, and you know how all player's handbooks have like character sheets at the back. The kid who had the book before me must not have heard of photocopiers, because they cut out the character sheet at the back and filled it in. And they actually just made a halfling thief named Bilbo Baggins.
I mean, I feel like that's what everyone did.
Yeah.
Like, back in the day.
Yeah. But no, it's I don't know. It's nice seeing other people's character sheets if they're people you don't know, because it's like, oh, who was this person? Yeah, halflings are classic. Goblins are good. Yeah. Gnomes are good. Dwarves are fine.
Yeah. I know I'm definitely leaning towards the shorter ancestries.
Yep.
A human would be handy, but like, come on. Human.
Yeah.
Really?
A human named Human.
Human.
Yeah.
That's a good human name.
Jack Human. No, that's too obvious. Hugh Jackman. Alright, well...
Okay, yeah, well...
Sverfneblin or Goblin?
Sverfneblin. I'm going Sverfneblin.
Okay. We're going Sverfneblin for Burrick's Thief. And that also allows you to pick a feat. I'm actually... This site is actually really useful because you can filter things by source. So if you'd use this little drop-down menu, I'm just going to say just everything in the core rulebook. And then it'll whir for a little bit.
Handy.
So it'll show you all the stuff you're allowed to use. And you do also have to meet the level prerequisite. So you see down in this column here, these are all level 1, but by the time you get to this one, that's level 5. So you're not allowed to take that just yet.
And I assume we're starting off level 1 characters,
Starting off level 1, yeah. Just because,
Fair enough.
This is an introduction. This is an introductory class, so...
Yeah, we don't need to start off on anything fancier than that.
No.
I'm just setting this up here myself as well, so I can see this in real time. So, level 1. Okay, that hasn't taken for whatever reason. I'll just keep an eye on the levels. So, we've got... Animal Compass, Burrow, Fey Fellowship, First World Magic. Your connection to the First World grants you a primal innate spell, much like those of the Fey.
Yeah.
That does sound...
You gain a cantrip from the primal spell list. You can cast this spell as a primal innate spell at will. A cantrip is heightened to a spell level equal to half your level rounded up. I'll just touch upon spells briefly at the moment.
You do that while I go look up the cantrips.
Now, I am gonna have to pick spells as I'm building a bard. But one thing that I do want to mention is that spells range from 1st to 10th level in this game, and there are also cantrips which don't take a spell slot. For any spell of 1st level or higher, you can only cast a certain number of those per day, which depends on your class. And yeah, there are rather than each class having its own spell list like they do in earlier editions, in this system there's only 4 spell lists. They're called the spell traditions, and each class draws all of its spells from one of them. They are arcane, primal, divine, and occult. And yeah, so every spell. Let me just quickly. I did make a note about this. Arcane spells are used by wizards, divine spells by clerics, primal spells by druids, and occult spells by bards. And the spell list used by a sorcerer depends on their bloodline, because sorcerers have innate magic that other characters don't. 4 magical traditions. Yeah, and I'll go into more detail on spells when I'm picking my spells, because there are some other nuances to it. But basically, all you need to know is that there are 10 levels of spell, and they're roughly equivalent to half the character level. There are cantrips which don't take any energy to perform, and there are you can only cast a certain number of other spells per day.
Yeah. Good old magic.
Good old magic, making games complicated since 1979.
Yes, I happen to have the primal. It was primal, wasn't it? Primal cantrips open.
Yes.
Just to see if there was anything in there that'd be handy. What is the H next to them?
The H means that it's heightenable, because although you can cast spells at their initial level, some spells get more powerful as you gain in power. For cantrips, they're always heightened to half your level, so half your level rounded up. So you get 2nd level cantrips when your character is at 3rd level. I always think it's really difficult to talk about spells because the level of spell slots is different to the level of the character. But the fact that they're both referred to as levels is a bit confusing.
This is part of the reason why I never play a caster.
Yeah, that's fair enough. But yeah.
Cantrips I can kind of get. I get cantrips. They're fine.
Yes. But yeah, while I mention it, yeah, 1st level spells and higher can also be heightened, but you do need to prepare them in higher level spell slots. So yeah, your cantrips are always as strong as the cantrip can possibly be. I'll use Electric Arc as an example. So this says you deal electricity damage equal to 1d4 plus your spellcasting ability modifier, and heightened +1, the damage increases by 1d4. So that means for every for every 1+1 spell level you have, the damage goes up by 1d4. So when your character gets to 3rd level, you're dealing 2d4 plus spellcasting ability mod damage. There are some other examples where you have to cast it at a specific level or higher. I think Tanglefoot might be one of those. Yeah. So Tanglefoot says heightened 2nd, which means that if you cast this spell at 2nd level, the effect lasts for 2 rounds. And if you cast it at 4th level, it lasts for 1 minute. But if you cast it at 3rd level, you get the 2nd level ability, and if you cast it at 5th level or higher, it'll 4th level. So this is as strong as it will get.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah. Well, let's see.
Oops, excuse me.
So there. Oh,
Yeah, 4th edition made a lot of very weird decisions. Dungeons and Dragons 4th edition, for those of you that don't know, was very divisive among the fan base. Some people really like it, some people really hate it, and most people have no strong opinions about it. But one of the things about 4th edition was that there were spells or abilities of each level. So it wasn't just like spells go up to 9th level or 10th level, and every 2 levels your character gains, you get access to a new level of spells. It's no, every single level you get access to new spells.
wild.
Yep. We'll do a
Yeah.
Dungeons and Dragons 4th edition introduction session at some point.
God.
Don't know how popular that would be, but we can always see.
It'd definitely be interesting, at least.
Mm.
Yeah, so First World Magic would be handy, and let's see, what does Sigil do? Because that sounded interesting.
Sigil is like a spell which lets you leave a mark on a thing. It could be visible or invisible, and you can change it from one state to another by using a single action to touch the target. So, like, you can bop it to turn it on or off. The mark can be scrubbed or scraped off with 5 minutes of work. If it's on a creature... Oop, sorry, I need to scroll down so people can see past me antlers. If it's on a creature, it fades naturally with the level, depending. I saw a creative use of this spell in my campaign when the wizard was using it to avoid getting lost in the woods. He would use Sigil on every tree he came across, because it does not say the duration is unlimited unless somebody wants to come along and scrape it off. And there's no limit to the number of sigils you can put on the thing. So every 30 feet or so, he was putting another sigil on a tree. And you can always tap them to turn them off to remind you that you've checked in a certain place. It seems useful for a thief as well. Yeah. Like you could mark houses to let other thieves know, like the shadow marks in Skyrim.
Or hobo code.
Or hobo code, exactly.
See, that's exactly what I was thinking. If I didn't take this, I was probably going to take a piece of chalk with me and mark it that way.
Well, I mean, this is good because the mark can be visible or invisible, and it's your unique magical sigil. So it's like you can graffiti tag a thing, but you can also let other people, like, you can make it invisible and let other people know you were there later by turning it on rather than casting the spell. It seems like there's a lot of uses for this for a thief. I really like one of the things that's really great about spells like this is, even though they don't have any like mechanical benefit, like they don't give you plus bonus to any skill check or anything. I'm not going to be. It's not a thing you use in combat. No, but they invite players to think creatively about how to use it and what to do with it. You know.
Exactly. Well, I'm kind of leaning towards taking this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sverfneblin sigil.
Yes. Sverfneblin, First World Magic for the feat, taking sigil.
So on your character sheet, you can fill in First World. Hang on. Zoom in. You can fill in First World Gnome. First World. What's it called? First World.
First World Magic.
You can fill in First World Magic here, and if you scroll down to page 4, I think.
In the cantrips, yes?
Yes. If you pop that in there. In actions, you can say that it takes 2, and you can also... another thing I'll mention quickly is that spells have components. Somatic and verbal means that to cast this spell, you have to be able to make gestures with your hands and also speak
Make a
words
noise.
intelligibly. Yes,
Yeah.
so you have to be able to do both of those things. If your hands are bound and you can't gesture, or if your mouth is full of cheese and you can't
Yep.
speak, you can't cast the spell.
Now, can one whisper the spell if it's still intelligible?
The answer to that is yes, I think. I don't think there's any specific. Actually, you know what? Let's have a look at the book. Let's have a look at the book.
That is a good idea, because I don't know the answer either. That's why I asked.
A verbal component is a vocalization of words of power. You must speak them in a strong voice, so it's hard to conceal that you're casting a spell.
Ah, darn. Well,
I think you would probably still be able to. I don't.
I mean, it says strong. It doesn't say loud, does it?
No. I think
What?
it would ultimately come up to the game master to determine if, like, I presume you're saying, can I cast this while still in stealth?
Exactly. Yeah. I imagine it'll incur an additional stealth check, possibly, sort of thing.
I mean, as the game master, I really like the idea. So yeah, I would probably just say, make an extra stealth check. There are feats. I don't know if the rogue probably gets access to them, which are things like subtle casting or silent casting, which let you cast spells without using verbal components, or trying to think of where they would be. But we can come back to that. For now,
Yeah, we'll come back.
For now, if I were your game master, fields of magical silence do stop spells with verbal components. So if somebody casts a silent spell on you, you're unable to use any spells with verbal components. So there's that. I realize I'm responding to chat, but I don't have it visible on screen. That's a bit of an oversight. So I'll just remember to like read questions out when they come in.
Yeah,
okay.
That'd be a good idea.
So
yeah,
you're going to be playing a Svirfneblin with. Why are you not zooming in, Adobe? There we are. So you can put your cantrip in, and I think the. Oh, give me a second. Gnome feats. Sorry about this.
Yeah.
I think the gnome feats, it will tell you what your spellcasting ability modifier is, and it will also tell you. Hang on. First world magic. You won't need a spellcasting ability modifier for this particular spell, unless somebody tries to like use dispel magic on it. But you can check here that you're trained in primal magic, and that can be your. I will actually leave these blank because I am going to be playing a bard, so I will need to fill in this sheet with my own spells. But I can put down a cult because I know that I'm going to be a bard. Here we are. Cantrip. Choose one cantrip. Primal innate spell. Okay. I will have to look into this, but I think. I'm going to quickly look up innate spells in the book. Because I think if it doesn't specify. Innate. Innate spells, please. Huh. There isn't a specific thing in the book about it. It'll probably be in the spells section, won't it? Innate spells. Certain spells are natural to your character, typically coming from your ancestry or a magic item rather than your class. You can cast your innate spells even if you aren't a member of a spellcasting class. The ability that gives you an innate spell tells you how often you can cast it, usually once per day, and its magical tradition. Innate spells are refreshed, so this is innate cantrips are cast at will and automatically heightened as normal for cantrips unless otherwise specified. You're always trained in spell attack rolls and spell DCs for your innate spells, even if you aren't otherwise trained in spell attack rolls or spell DCs. You use your charisma modifier as your spellcasting ability modifier for innate spells unless otherwise specified. So on your sheet here, you can go that you're trained in primal, your spell DC is your charisma, and you're trained in this and in this. That's not filling that in. Why? Oh no, it's probably because I haven't filled it. So this this sheet does a lot of like auto calculations for you. So don't be surprised when like you put in. So if I put in, for example, 14 charisma, that should now give me +2, which will then bring this up to +5 on spell attack rolls and 15 on spell DC. There we are. Okay.
Oh,
Perfect.
Jen's redeemed a hydrate.
Oh, lovely. I'll have a sippy. Sip, sip, sip.
Same here. So, sorry, while you were explaining that, I completely forgot what my spell DC ability was.
Charisma.
It was charisma.
It is. If it's not otherwise specified, it's charisma.
Ah, awesome.
Okay. So, you've picked your ancestry and your heritage, and you've picked an ancestry feat as well. While I have the brain, I'm actually going to start by going over here and going over ability scores. So during character creation, there are 4 steps that are used to determine your ability scores. Each ability score starts at 10, representing the human average, but as you make character choices, you'll adjust these scores by applying ability boosts, each of which increases a score by 2, and ability flaws, each of which decreases an ability score by 2. As you build your character, remember to apply ability score adjustments when making the following decisions. When you gain multiple ability boosts at the same time, you must apply each one to a different score. So Ancestry gives 2 specified boosts, 1 specified flaw, and a free boost, or a specified boost and a free boost. Most Ancestries do this, which is what Gnome does. And I've Gnome details.
Ability boosts are con, charisma free, and our flaws are strength.
Okay. So at this stage, our Constitution and Charisma will go up to 12 each. Our our Strength will go down to 8, and we'll get to pick one other ability score to increase to 12. So presumably for you, that's going to be Dexterity.
It will be indeed.
The second step is the background. Each background provides 2 ability boosts, and your class, you also get a boost in your class's key skill, which I will get onto when we talk about classes specifically. But let's go and look at backgrounds first.
Perfect.
I'm going to put my free boost in Intelligence.
Oh, yeah. That's a good one.
So, backgrounds. At first level, you gain a background of your choice. The decision is permanent, you can't change it later. Each background grants 2 ability boosts, a skill feat, and the trained proficiency rank in 2 skills. I will explain proficiency rank in a second, because if we go back to the sheet, actually, you'll see here that a lot of these things have this TEML next to them, TEML. And that stands for Trained, Expert, Master, Legendary. if you're trained in something, if you're untrained in something, you get no proficiency bonus to it at all. You just use your, for example, if I'm untrained in acrobatics, I would just use my dexterity modifier. If I were trained in it, I would add 2 plus my level. Everything that you're trained in, you add your level to the rolls. This is something that this game does differently from a lot of other systems. In Dungeons & Dragons 4th edition, you were expected to add half your level to just about everything. In this game, you add your level to everything you're trained in. So trained proficiency at first level is 3, because it's 2 from being trained plus 1 from your level. And as you increase in level, your trained proficiency gets better. Expert is equal to 4 plus your level. Master is 6 plus your level, and Legendary is 8 plus your level.
Which would make things real easy.
Yes. Well, that's why you're Legendary at it, isn't it?
Yep.
So, like we were saying, each background gives you training in 2 skills. So I've already said. Oh yeah, I'll also talk about lore. Lore skills represent deep knowledge of a specific subject. If a lore skill involves a choice, explain your preference to the GM, and then it suggests some common lore subcategories. So lore is like a knowledge skill, which is really narrow. So for example, the acrobat gets circus lore, or the acolyte gets scribing lore. So it's a knowledge skill which only applies to something incredibly specific. Which I like, because it's like, you know, you could say to the game master, oh yeah, no, I used to work in a monastery, so I would know all about like forging documents or whatever. Could I roll for scribing lore? Which is fun. I like that.
Yeah, that is a good one.
So I've already said that my character is going to be a former gambler, and I think there is a gambler background. There it is. The thrill of the win drew you into games of chance. This might have been a lucrative sideline that paled in comparison to the real risks of adventuring. Or you might have fallen on hard times due to your gambling and pursued adventuring as a way out of a spiral. Choose 2 ability boosts, 1 must be to dexterity or charisma, and 1 is a free ability boost. So all of the backgrounds say, pick one of these 2, and then your other one is free. Your other one could be... So, for example, I'm going to pick Charisma, obviously, for my first one, because I'm being a bard, and bards need all the charisma they can get. But my free ability boost could also go into Dexterity. So I could get both of these. I could... Kitty Cat Herder is saying, Circus Lore, innate knowledge of Clown College. Oh, that rhymes. Clowns go to college to get more knowledge. So, this gives me trained in deception, which I will put in here. I'm trained in deception. And I'm trained in games lore. So, over here, you can write down what your specific lore category is. Games lore. Just like in real life.
Wow.
Yeah. And I gained the Lie to Me skill feat. And I'll quickly just open that up. Lie to Me. You can be Tim Roth. I'm afraid if Lie to Me is like a film or something, I've not seen it. And maybe that's to my shame.
It's a show.
It's a show.
I don't remember much about it, but it's a show.
Is it like a crime drama or something?
I think it's one of them procedural types.
Right. Probably about a lawyer based on the name.
Yeah,
yes.
I mean, I haven't seen it in years, but anyway.
You can use deception to weave traps to trip up anyone trying to deceive you. If you can engage in conversation with someone trying to lie to you, use your deception DC if it's higher than your perception DC to determine whether they succeed. This doesn't apply if you don't have a back and forth dialogue, such as one attempts to lie during a long speech. DCs are... So rather than doing like opposed rolls in this game, you have a DC for everything that you have a modifier for. Your DC is always 10 plus your modifier. So, for example, at the moment, my deception is +5, because I've given myself 14 charisma from being... hang on. I've given myself 14 charisma from the 2 steps we've done so far. And I've got, 2 charisma, 3 proficiency. 2 charisma, 3 proficiency, which gives me a deception score of 5, which means my deception DC is 15. So if somebody's trying to lie to me, if 15 is better than my perception modifier, which we'll put up here, they'll have to try and beat 15.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll also need to know about DCs a lot for stealth characters, because hiding and sneaking and seeking all use the side that is active makes the roll against the side that is passive. So, for example, if you're hidden, if you're trying to hide, you make a stealth roll against people's perception DCs. But if you're hidden, other people make perception rolls against your stealth DC.
Which is an interesting way to do it, but it makes sense.
Yeah. So it's like, I think in other editions of the game they call it like passive perception. In this game you have a passive everything.
Cool.
So yeah, I get the Lie to Me skill feat, which I will put in down skill feats. You got a slot for your background here, so I'll put that in here. Lie to Me, starring Tim Roth. There we are. Oh, starring T. Starring T.
Starring T.
There we go. So that's that. What about yourself, Burrick? What sort of background are you thinking for your character? There are things like criminal or smuggler or street urchin.
Now, those are very obvious. So
Okay.
I was thinking maybe I'd look for something else.
Okay.
If I was gonna try to make a Garrett-adjacent character,
Okay.
some sort of librarian, or...
Well, let's see. Is there a librarian?
Yes, that would be good.
It would be... L comes before M, doesn't it? Labourer. What about chronicler or like archivist or something?
Yeah, one of them would work.
Chosen
Don't
one.
see chronicler.
Charlatan. Bookkeeper. Oh, that's an advanced player's guide one. We're not doing that.
Yeah, I know, right?
You could be a barrister.
A barrister.
Uh,
I did see one that was... You can, Barkeep is core rulebook. That's a good one. It's a shame Barber is advanced player's guide, though.
yeah. I do like this as well, that the historically accurate, for anybody who doesn't know, barbers used to be surgeons as well. I think the image of the red spiral barber's pole comes from like hanging up bloody rags to dry, because barbers, in addition to giving people haircuts and shaving them, if it takes a steady hand and a razor, you do it. So yeah, they were the ones who were trained to use knives with precision. So they did haircuts, dentistry, bloodletting, and surgery.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
One-stop shop kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. You could be a barkeep. I couldn't see like archivist or chronicler. Oh, I just realized I have this thing. Ugh, there we are. You could be a... I'll tell you what, let's just search in page core rule.
Yeah, that might actually be more useful.
Core rulebook. Acolyte, acrobat, animal whisperer, artisan, artist, barkeep, barrister, bounty hunter, charlatan, criminal, detective, emissary, entertainer, farmhand, field medic, fortune teller, gambler, gladiator, guard, herbalist, hermit, hunter, labourer, martial disciple, merchant, miner, noble, nomad, prisoner, sailor, scholar. A scholar might work for like a librarian.
That might work. There is also Acolyte, which might work right up at the
Acolytes,
top.
acolytes are usually like nuns and monks.
Yeah.
Religious monastery or cloister. Was that what Garrett was doing?
Yeah, I mean, he was like an apprentice to a bunch of ninja monks.
Oh, makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, you could do that if you want. Why are we not using the advanced player's guide? Because every book after the core rulebook adds so many different options. I think for the sake of ease, because like this is for new players, so I'm deliberately restricting to only core rulebook stuff, just because that's it's simpler. It limits the number of decisions you have to make in that regard.
Yeah, Scholar could work as well.
Yeah. Scholar or
Archaeologist actually look pretty good.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Archaeologist is PFS guide. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, bud.
Yeah, that's what I get for just searching Scholar instead of core scout, Dex Wisdom. So many cool things.
The keeper's called
from the
him an acolyte.
Yep, that is true.
Okay.
Our most promising acolyte left us not out of the greater folly of sentiment, the blah blah, I forget.
Well.
Yeah, acolyte would work.
Okay. Well, let's have a look at the student of the canon skill feat. You've researched many faiths enough to recognize notions about them that are unlikely to be true. If you roll a critical failure at a religion check to decipher writing of a religious nature or to recall knowledge about the tenets of faiths, you get a failure instead. So what this means is knowledge rolls in this game are secret, which means the game master rolls them behind the screen and tells you what your character recalls. But if you get a critical failure, the GM will just make something up and like tell you a lie. But this means that the GM can't lie to you, so you'll know. Sorry, my face is just going wild. The GM, well, it's not that the GM can't lie to you, because that would be a ridiculous notion. It's like you have to tell me if you're a cop.
Yeah.
But yeah, it basically means that if you would critically fail to decipher writing or recall knowledge, you just get a failure, which means that the GM doesn't tell you some random stuff. Like, if you just get a failure, the GM just says, you don't know. You don't remember. Which is nice.
Does poop in the woods.
When attempting to recall knowledge about the tenets of your own faith, if you roll a failure, you get a success instead. And if you roll a success, you get a critical success instead.
Nice.
So,
sure.
You're really good at remembering your own faith, and you're pretty good at remembering other people's faiths.
And while that doesn't lead directly into something being useful necessarily for a rogue,
it does round out the character.
It does. And like we were saying earlier, not everything has to feed into some...
Of course not.
Like, yeah. We're not min-maxing our characters here, really.
No.
Unless it's funny.
Yeah. I mean, somebody proposed to me... one of my friends from university called me up the other day because he had a dream about a new cut of the Lord of the Rings films where Arwen was, like, just the most... badass. Like, she was so capable and competent at everything, but everybody else in the film ignored her. And it was like a point of comedy to the point where she was the most min-maxed character that possibly was. But everybody else was just like, no, let's let the hobbits do it.
I mean, Arwen kicked ass, so yeah.
Yeah, in the film.
But yeah.
I think she doesn't have much of a role in the book.
I don't think she does. She really doesn't do anything in the book, does she? Anyway, that aside, I'm thinking acolyte.
Yep.
I'm not sure what religion I was an acolyte of, but I was an acolyte of something.
Well, we can look at the lore stuff later because there is a space on the character sheet. If I go back to it, There is a space for... excuse me. Just dragging it about. There is a space for deity here, which is important for clerics and champions. And other characters can also have deities. Pantheons are, like, really one of my weak points when it comes to world building. So I usually just tell people to, like, look at the list of deities in the core rulebook and say, this god exists in my universe. So we can look at the canon pantheon when after we're done here. Okay?
Yeah, and if we're still having trouble with them, I do have a couple of pantheons up in the old noggin that we could pull from probably.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll go with Acolyte for not Garrett.
We're going with Acolyte.
Should we call them Garendale? Because it's like half Garrett and half Glendale. And also
actually Garendale.
Garendale
that does kind of...
sounds like a pretty good fantasy name.
That you know what? I'm putting that down.
Nice. Garendale.
E-Man for short.
Movie Arwen was more than half Glorfindel. Now, I'm going to be honest. Now, this is a point to my shame. I've never actually read The Lord of the Rings. I have a copy, but there's just so much of it. It's just so long. It's like...
For shame. How could you?
I know.
I haven't actually read it either, but how could you?
I'm a fake nerd, you know?
We're both fake nerds. I have...
Well, I'll tell you what, actually.
Near antique, like special edition ones with like these fancy silver covers and everything.
Beautiful.
And I'm only 20 pages in.
Did I tell you that one of my modules when I was doing history was about Old Norse language and society?
No, that sounds awesome.
Yeah, it was pretty good. The teacher gave us mead as like a reward for finishing this semester. I was the only one in the class that actually liked it, so... I
mean, that's fair. I've had mead and I don't like mead.
Yeah, it's probably an acquired taste, but I did... My essay for that module was about the Ring of the Nibelung, which is like an old High German origin story. It's difficult to like go into specific detail about it, but basically, the important thing is that I had an onion on my belt, which was the style at the time. The important thing was I spoke a lot about Tolkien because Tolkien was famously a scholar on his main love was languages. As Jen is saying in the chat, he based Elvish on Finnish. Oh, I love the Finnish language. I'm not going to get into that right now. But like he was a scholar of languages first, and then he made up these languages and then built a story around that. So he did like Anglo-Saxon, he did Old High German, he did all of these things. And one of the he did a translation of the legend of Sigurd and Gudrun. So my essay was all about comparing like modern translations to like different original versions, and also looking at the motifs that also appeared in Lord of the Rings. So it was fun.
And another fun fact, and there's a lot of fun facts about Tolkien, is that the author of Howl's Moving Castle kept showing up to his lectures even though he didn't want anyone there, so he could finish writing Return of the King.
Oh, is that is it Diana Wynne Jones?
That's the one.
Yeah, love her stuff.
Apparently, he was a really bad lecturer.
I would imagine so. The professor in Futurama does a similar sort of thing. Like he makes his lecture sound so complicated so that nobody wants to come and listen in on it.
I remember that. Yeah.
Lord of the Rings really does read a lot like an Edda. Yeah, I think so. The Silmarillion even more so. Like, and obviously the Silmarillion wasn't intended to be published, but like you can tell that his backstory is not in prose literature, but in mythologies. which is
Yeah, I
it's
mean,
good.
he put indexes in his book.
Yeah, I mean,
What a nutter.
the thing is, I love Tolkien and I love the impact that he's had on modern fantasy, because like I think without Tolkien we probably wouldn't have
We
Dungeons and
wouldn't be playing
Dragons.
this.
Yeah, we wouldn't be playing this. But like I have to say that Peter Jackson did an excellent job of making Tolkien's work accessible.
He really did.
I love the Lord of the Rings films. They're so good.
I might just whack on the Lord of the Rings films after this stream.
Yeah, I mean it's a good way to spend a Friday night.
Yeah.
Okay.
What were you doing?
We were building a character for
Oh,
both
yeah.
of us. Now comes the important thing. We've done ancestry. We've done background. Now time to do.
Oh, we haven't really finished
Oh yes,
background just
Right.
because.
yes. You've got to note down the skills that you're trained in. I think I already did this section, and I also picked my ability boosts from this.
Yeah, you did for yourself, and you have to go. I mean, I can go do it off on my own thing.
Well, it shouldn't take you too long to just jot down these couple of things.
Yeah,
In the
let's see.
meantime, I'm going to open up the pages for Bard and the page for... Anyway, yes.
Anyway,
I mean, even the original Hobbit book was like structured very much like a fairy tale or a legend. Like, it wasn't... oops, that was wizard. You don't want to play a wizard, do you?
not this time around.
No. Okay, well, I'll go over class entries while you copy those things down and show people the different abilities that you get from your classes. Key ability, Charisma. At first level, your class will give you a boost to one specific ability. You also get hit points equal to, for most classes, it's 8. For some classes that are a bit stronger, they get 10. The Barbarian uniquely gets 12 per level, and magical casters only get 6 per level, but you always add your Constitution modifier to it. At first level and every level thereafter. I do want to quickly point out that for the Rogue, your key ability is Dexterity or Other. You're probably going to pick Dexterity, but...
I'm going to pick Dexterity, but that's interesting.
Rogues there's a special decision that rogues have to make. You get an option from Rogue's Racket. Basically, rogues in this game don't have to be dexterity based. You could be a ruffian, which is you prefer to strong arm or intimidate others rather than relying on finesse or fancy tricks. You might be an enforcer for organized crime, a highway bandit, or a noble who bullies others with threats of your family's power. So this one lets you be a strength-based rogue. The scoundrel lets you be a charisma-based rogue. The thief lets you be a dexterity-based rogue, like normal. And the two from the Advanced Player's Guide, the Eldritch Trickster and Mastermind, get to be intelligence-based rogues. So you could be intelligence, you could be strength, dexterity, intelligence, or charisma if as a rogue. So you get to do basically whatever you want. And your key ability doesn't just give you a boost, that also plays into other features. Like, you get what's called a class DC. So spellcasters get spell DCs, which is based off their spellcasting ability modifier. But for characters like rogues, they get a class DC, which affects things like... I think rogues get like if they hit somebody with a sneak attack, they can slow them down, or if they hit somebody with a sneak attack, they can cause them to bleed and things like that. And those abilities, the saving throw is always based on the class DC.
Cool. All right, that makes sense.
So we'll come back to rogue, but I'll go through Bard to start with. Again, 'cause it's a little bit simpler. Key terms. So different abilities have special abilities. Different abilities have special properties. So, composition spells, and actually, while I remember, I'm actually gonna like talk about traits, because if we go to focus spells, what we have here is, do you see all these little brown boxes here? These are what are called traits. Now, some traits have associated rules text to go along with them. Other traits are just there to say how they interact with other things. Composition is one of these things that says, here we are. To cast a composition cantrip or focus spell, you use a type of performance. If it includes a verbal component, you must use an auditory performance, and if it includes a somatic component, you must use a visual one. The spell gains all the traits of the performance you used. So what that means is like allegro. So enchantment is like a school of magic. Mental means that it only affects people that have. You can't see it on the stream, but if you mouse over these things, you can see hover over text. But yeah, so you can most of these little tags just add like, they tell you how they interact with other abilities, but some of them do have associated rules text. So when you're looking at these tags, do be sure to check them to see if there's any special rules you need to be aware of. Okay.
Awesome.
So you'll see key terms at the top of each class that includes like a specific, some specific things. For example, the flourish trait require too much exertion to perform frequently. You can only use one action with the flourish trait per turn. So that's something that the rogue will be able to do. And each class will list the special key terms. There's a little section at the top about role-playing the bard. It tells you how they perform during combat encounters. Use magical performances to alter the odds in favor of your allies. During social encounters, you persuade, prevaricate, and threaten with ease. While exploring, you're a font of knowledge, folktales, legends, and lore that provide a deeper context or helpful reconnaissance for the group's adventure. In downtime, you can earn money and prestige with your performances. You might have a passion for your art so strong you forge a spiritual connection with it. You might take point when tact and non-violent solutions are required. You might follow your muse, whether it's a mysterious fey creature, a philosophical concept, a psychic force, or a deity of art or music, and with its aid learn the secret lore that few others have. Others probably relish the opportunity to invite you to social events, underestimate you compared to other spellcasters, or respond favourably to your social charm and ability. So just like with your ancestry, it gives you a little advice about what sort of character bards tend to be. And you don't have to stick with this at all. Like, I love that they give you this, but I also think it's really fun to play characters who go against type, you know?
It helps get your mind in the right direction if you're trying to figure it out for the first time, maybe.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things, and that's one of the things that this stream is here for, is like for new players, you know? If you're new to role-playing games, this will tell you what an archetypical version of this character is like, and you could use that to, you know, think about what sort of character you want to play. There's also one thing I want to mention as well is like Pathfinder uses these characters. These are called the iconic characters. This one is called Lem, and he's the iconic bard. He's a halfling, plays a flute, has a dagger. Each class has an iconic character, and you'll often see in a bunch of official Pathfinder illustrations, you'll see these characters getting into various hijinks and misadventures and things like that. But each one is sort of a good specimen of the class, you know. Like here, for example, we have Mariziel, who is the iconic rogue. You know, she fights with a rapier. She has a dagger in her offhand. She has 6 daggers strapped to her back, another 2 at her waist. Yeah, I think she's an elf from the ears. She might be a half elf.
I'd imagine an elf.
Also, she is fun fact. She is married to the iconic cleric. They are lesbian wives,
Aww,
which is great.
that's awesome.
I'll show you her wife quickly. Here she is. Kyra. They are married.
Oh yeah.
Hmm?
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. Yeah, so like there's all these characters and there's like loads of little stories about them that run between books, and like occasionally you'll see flavor texts, and it's just nice having those things there because they add a little bit of connection, you know. All right, now we get into the crunch. Crunchy. I'm seeing a lesbian heart emote in the chat, and that makes me really happy. So this tells you the listed proficiency ranks in the following statistics. You're untrained in anything not listed unless you gain a better proficiency rank in some other way. So it tells you your perception, saving throws, skills, attacks, defenses, and spells. So I'll quickly copy these down.
I might as well go do mine while I'm at it.
Yeah. Do you have the rogue page available?
Yeah, I do indeed.
Okay. So just do the initial proficiencies for the beginning. You will also notice it says trained in a number of additional skills equal to 7 plus your intelligence modifier. Rogues get a ton of skills. You also might not have completed your ability scores just yet, because we do get one final. Like we do the boost from ancestry, from background, and from class, but there is one final step that might also increase your intelligence. So you might get one more skill than this. Okay, so just be aware of that. So I'm just going to copy mine down quickly. Yeah. What's going on? Sorry, I just dragged a thing to the wrong side of the screen. So I'm an expert in perception. Let me just go to...
Oh, am I actually? Are you in the right one? Yeah, you are. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we're both playing skill monkey characters. Like, so
True.
Rogue and Bard get a lot of things in common. Okay, so perception goes in this box here. Just like on the right-hand side. So I'm trained in... No, I'm an expert in perception, which gives me +5 plus my wisdom. I think my wisdom is probably... Oh yeah, I need to update this as well. So I have 16 charisma. I'm trained in fortitude, reflex, and expert in will. So these are saving throws. These are when you have to resist a hostile effect. For example, an attempt at mind control by an evil wizard or a dragon's fire breath. You might be called upon to make a saving throw to try and resist it. Fortitude is usually for things like poisons. Reflex is for traps and other effects where you have to dodge out of the way. Will is for mental effects. And each of these is based off one of your ability scores. Fortitude is based off Constitution. Reflex is based off Dexterity. Will is based off Wisdom. I am also trained in Occultism and Performance. And, let me just quickly hide that. A number of additional skills equal to 4 plus my Intelligence modifier. So Occultism, Performance, and I get to pick 4 more. So my character... Ooh, who are they going to be? I'm going to zoom in a bit so you can see the list of skills a bit clearer. I think... Occultism, Performance... I got Games Law and Deception from being a gambler. Let's try Stealth, because I'm going to get a +2 bonus from Stealth for being a chameleon gnome. So we'll go for Stealth. Society is like history and also fitting in, so I think I'll go with that. So that's 2. I will take Diplomacy for getting on with people, and I'll take Acrobatics just in case I need to, scramble over a fence or something like that to get away from people who I owe money to.
Very handy.
Very handy. My intelligence modifier is currently 1, but it might go up. so I get to pick one more after those 4. So I'm going to go with Arcana, because I think it would be good to know lots of different kinds of magic. Arcana, nature, religion, and occultism are the 4 skills which govern how well you know magic things. Like I said earlier, there are 4 different schools, 4 different traditions of magic. Arcana is about arcane, primal is, nature is about primal, occultism is about occult, and religion is about divine magic. So each of these skills is linked to a specific, one of the specific schools of magic. And then if I quickly disappear that, so that's my skills done. I'm trained in simple weapons, the longsword, rapier, sap, short bow, short sword, and whip, and unarmed attacks. So that's a lot of things to note down. So trained in simple, and then trained in, this sheet gives you like 2 spaces for other. So I'll just put trained in those specific things, and this one will be unarmed attacks. Oh, there's not going to be enough space. I'll just put bard weapons. Bard.
I'm going to do the same because I got that as well.
Yes. You don't get training in... martial weapons is like the category which encompasses all of these. But you just get training in a couple.
Yeah.
And I'm also trained in light armor and unarmored defense. And I think I did spells already because we were talking about that earlier. But I will just double check. Spells, trained in occult. I'm a spontaneous caster as well. Okay. So I can go up to defenses, which is this middle area here. Don't know why these are tracked as master and legendary. I'm not a legendary character in unarmored defense. I am trained in light armor and unarmored defense. And I'm currently unarmored, so I'll tick the trained box up here. Okay, so those are all of my initial proficiencies. And now we get onto the class features section. How are you getting on, Burrick?
Yeah, fairly well. Filling in everything. Haven't put down the additional skills equal to 7 plus your int modifier, which is just 0 at the moment, so 7.
Okay.
Which is a whole lot. That's way too many.
Yeah, it's like it's like about half of them. I think I counted, and there's like 17 different skills.
That's ridiculous. If I choose a skill I'm already trained in, does that bring it up to expert, or does that I just can't choose it?
12, 13, 14, 15. That's actually a really good point you bring up. There could come a case where your ancestry or your background gives you training in a specific skill, but then you also get that training from somewhere else. If you would become trained in a skill from multiple sources, the second one, you can put that into a different skill of your choice.
Oh, okay.
So if, for example...
But I wouldn't be able to bring up the same one.
No. You will, as your character levels up, you will get the opportunity to increase things to expert. But for now, unless it specifies that you can increase something to expert... if you're already trained in a skill and you would receive training in that skill again, you get to pick a different skill. And this only applies to skills. You can't, like, gain bonus proficiency in weapons or armor or anything like that.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Alright, good to know.
Okay. So, each of the classes... Are you ready for me to continue, or shall I give you a second?
No, you can keep going. I'll keep up, I'm sure.
Okay. So each of the classes has a table, which tells you what you gain at each level. It ranges from 1st level all the way up to 20th level, which is the pinnacle of power in this game. You can see right at the top, we've got ancestry and background and initial proficiencies. We've already done those, so we don't need to worry about those too much. But then it also lists occult spellcasting, spell repertoire, composition spells, and muse. And those are all specific abilities that the bard gets. If we take a look at the rogue table, you can see that at first level, after these two, they get Rogue's Racket, Sneak Attack, Surprise Attack, Rogue Feat, and Skill Feat. And a lot of the... for most characters... I'll close the Cleric page, actually. I don't need them anymore. For most characters, you'll gain a class feat every even-numbered level. Some get an additional one at first level. And when you get one of those, you get to make a decision, which is great. It's great fun when you get to make decisions. So I'll just go down the list quickly. Ancestry and background we've done. Composition spells. You can infuse your performances with magic to create unique effects called compositions. Compositions are a special type of spell, often require you to use the performance thing. Yeah, we went over this just above. It costs 1 focus point. A lot of these things like spellcaster specific, and I don't want to go over them like before I do anything else. So I think I'll do the things that are more general to start with. Yeah. Okay, so we get to pick a muse as a bard. You select 1 muse. Most of the classes, in fact, I think almost all of them get to pick like a subclass. For rogues, it was the racket. For bards, it's the muses. So this is essentially a bard's source of inspiration. It could be enigma, a mystery, driving you to uncover the hidden secrets of the multiverse. It could be a virtuoso, inspiring you to greater heights. If it's a creature, it might be a performance-loving creature, such as an angel or an azata. Polymath, your muse is a jack of all trades. So yeah, in the core rulebook, you get to pick from Enigma, Maestro, and Polymath. What do I think? I think my character, as a gnome who's always on the lookout for new things, I think Polymath fits really nicely. You're interested in a wide array of topics, but rarely dedicated to any one, and you rarely make up your mind. You want to try everything. That sounds pretty perfect. That's practically perfect for a gnome. So I gain the versatile performance feat and add Unseen Servant to my spell repertoire. So I will middle click those to open them up in new tabs. So I can put down, if I go on my character sheet, if I zoom out quickly. Come on, there we go. Too far. If I go down to page 2, where I have this column here, class feats and abilities, I can put down Muse in this feature section. So Muse, open brackets, Polymath, close brackets. And that also gives me the... what was it? Versatile performance feat. You can rely on the grandeur of your performance rather than ordinary social skills. You can use performance instead of diplomacy to make an impression, and instead of intimidation to demoralize. You can also use an acting performance instead of deception to impersonate. You can use your proficiency rank in performance to meet the requirements of skill feats that require a particular rank in deception, diplomacy, or intimidation. So some feats that you get say you have to be an expert in deception, but this essentially means that as long as I'm an expert in performance, I can still take those even if I'm only trained in deception. So that's pretty fun.
Nice.
So I get to use performance in place of the other three charisma-based skills, which is diplomacy, intimidation, and deception. So I'll put that down in my feats column. Versatile performance. So there's that, and I also get to add Unseen Servant to my spell repertoire. You summon an Unseen Servant, which you can command as part of sustaining the spell. Again, this is all magic stuff, which I will talk about this, I promise, but I'm going to talk about it at the end, because it probably applies to less than half the characters in Pathfinder, even though probably about half the classes are spellcasting classes. But yeah. So we get an Unseen Servant, which we can use to interact, to do things such as fetch objects, open unstuck or unlocked doors, hold chairs, and clean. Can't pass through solid objects. So there we are. There's an Unseen Servant. We can add that to our spell repertoire, which is down on page 4. Page 4. Here we are. Spells. I'll just put unseen servant here. Oops. Okay, so there's that. That's my muse. What else do I get? Spell repertoire, composition spell. Oh yeah, so it's actually all of the other features of the bard are to do with casting spells and stuff. So maybe now is a good time to go over that.
Might as well, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that works.
Okay, so I'm gonna quickly grab Gnome, Gnoblin, and close this stuff about.
Gotta do it eventually.
I just need to manage tabs quickly. One sec. So let's go down to spells. There's two ways that you can cast spells in this game. Well, no, there's two kinds of spellcasting class. There are prepared spellcasters and there are spontaneous spellcasters. Prepared spellcasters are like wizards and druids and clerics. So each day they get to a wizard will study his spellbook, or a cleric will pray to her god, or a druid will commune with nature, and they get to pick which spells they want to cast that day. A spontaneous spellcaster knows a certain number of spells and has a certain amount of magic power that they can use each day. So rather than preparing each spell, they cast them whenever they feel like it. But they know a limited number of spells. So to put it another way, spontaneous casters are more flexible, but prepared casters are more versatile. Does that make sense? They're not flexible and versatile aren't the same thing. A spontaneous spellcaster can cast any spell that they know as long as they have a spell slot that can hold it. Whereas a prepared spellcaster has to decide which spells they're going to bring with them in the morning.
Yeah.
Basically.
Magic is always the most complicated part of these things.
Yeah, it is. So there, like I said before, there are four magical traditions: arcane, divine, occult, and primal. So yeah, arcane is wizards, divine is clerics, primal is druids, and occult is bards. Each spell also belongs to a magical school, which roughly tells you what sort of effect it will have: abjuration, conjuration, divination, enchantment, evocation, illusion, necromancy, and transmutation. But most of that stuff is just flavor. Now we get to the meat of the issue. Yes, you are absolutely right, Kitty Cat Herder. Prepared spellcasters have to assign spells to each slot. Each prepared spell is expended after a single casting. So if you want to cast a particular spell more than once in a day, you need to prepare it multiple times. The exception to this rule are spells with the cantrip trait. Once you prepare a cantrip, you can cast it as many times as you want until the next time you prepare spells. So cantrips are sort of like level 0 spells. They don't take up spell slots and they're not expended when they're used. So if you're a wizard and you have 3 spell slots, you might decide that you want 2 of them to be magic missile and you want the 3rd one to be, I don't know, lightning bolt. They're different levels of spells, but yeah, you've got 2 magic missiles and a lightning bolt. And then if you're in a fight and you decide you want to use your lightning bolt spell, it's gone for the day. You can't decide later that you want to cast, you've still got spells left, so you want to cast lightning bolt again. No, you've prepared 2 magic missiles and 1 lightning bolt. So once you've cast your lightning bolt, you're left with your 2 magic missiles. Your spells remain prepared until you cast them, or until you prepare them again, or until you use them. You might gain an ability that allows you to swap prepared spells or perform other aspects of preparing spells at different times throughout the day, but your daily preparation counts for the purpose of effects that last until the next time you prepare spells. So some spells, like Light, for example, you can keep it going. It basically lasts the entire day, but you can keep it going by choosing not to prepare, like not to write over it, I'll explain it in a bit more detail in a second. Spontaneous spellcasters you choose which spell you're using a spell slot for at the moment you decide to cast it. This provides you with more freedom in your spell casting, but you have fewer spells in your repertoire. When you make your daily preparations, all your spell slots are refreshed, but you don't get to change the spells in your repertoire. So all of the spells that a sorcerer knows, they don't get to... As they level up, they'll learn more spells, and they can get the option to swap spells out when they level up, but they don't get to decide each morning what things they want to cast. Understood?
Understood.
And I will talk about heightening spells quickly. Once you gain access to spell slots of 2nd level and higher, you can cast spells at higher levels. So I'm going to use Magic Missile again as an example. Magic Missile is a 1st level spell, but you can cast it at higher levels. And when you do, it gains additional effects. So for every 2 levels you increase the level of Magic Missile by, you get 1 additional shot with it. A prepared spellcaster can heighten a spell by preparing it in a higher level slot than its normal spell level, while a spontaneous spellcaster can heighten a spell by casting it using a higher level spell slot, so long as they know the spell at that level. So this is something that's a bit restrictive. Spontaneous spellcasters have to know a spell at each level that they want to heighten it to. So, for example, if I'm playing as a bard, and bards get Magic Missile. So actually, that's a really useful example. So let's say that I learn Magic Missile at 1st level. Once I get to 3rd level and gain access to 2nd level spell slots, Once I gain access to 3rd level spell slots as a bard, I can't cast Magic Missile with its 3rd level effect unless I learn it at 3rd level. And I would have to know it at 1st level and at 3rd level.
Magic.
So you have to heighten spontaneous spells. Here we are. You must know a spell at the specific level that you want to cast it in order to heighten it. You can add a spell to your spell repertoire at more than a single level, so you have more options when casting it. For example, you can add Fireball to your repertoire at 3rd level and again as a 5th level spell. You could cast it at 3rd level or at 5th level, but not at 4th level. Many spontaneous spellcasting classes provide abilities like signature spells, which allows you to cast a limited number of spells as heightened versions, even if you only know them at a single level. So it's easier for prepared spellcasters to heighten spells. It's a bit more restrictive for spontaneous casters. But yeah, some entries have additional benefits when they are heightened. Yeah. Heightening is useful for any spell because some effects such as counteracting depend on the spell's level. In addition, many spells have specific benefits. So yeah, heightened +1. Yeah. So this is something that we touched on earlier. It's like heightened +1 means that if you add 1 more spell level to it, the damage increases. If it said heightened 2nd, that would mean it had a specific different effect when you cast it at 2nd level. Cantrips are always... casting a cantrip doesn't use up your spell slots. You can cast a cantrip at will, any number of times per day. If you're a prepared caster, you prepare a specific number of cantrips each day. You can't prepare a cantrip in a spell slot. So, you can cast your cantrips as often as you want, but you can't use your spell slots to cast them. I don't know why you would, because why you would want to do that.
There's probably some wacky, weird rules lawyering that you could get into to do some weird stuff with putting a cantrip in a spell slot.
I'm sure there is. And I'm sure that probably happened in earlier editions of the game, which is why they included this line specifically. Focus spells are a special type of spell attained directly from a branch of study. These are quite interesting. These are essentially you can learn only through special class features or feats rather than choosing them from a spell list, and you cast them using a special pool of focus points. You don't use spell slots to cast focus spells, but you also can't use your focus points to cast spells that aren't focus spells. So going back to my bard, for example, I get composition spells, like Counter Performance. And this here is a focus spell. It says Focus 1, which means it's a first level focus spell. I think focus spells are automatically... Yeah, focus spells are automatically heightened, like cantrips, to half your level rounded up. So once I get to 3rd level, this Counter Performance becomes a 2nd level spell. Once I get to 5th level, it becomes a 3rd level spell, and so on. If I wanted to cast Counter Performance, I would have to spend a focus point. You start off with a pool... If you have focus spells, you start off with a focus pool of 1 focus point. You refill your focus during your daily preparations, and you can regain 1 focus point by spending 10 minutes refocusing. And the specific things that you have to do to refocus depend on your class. So for druids, it would be sort of meditating in nature. For clerics, it would be prayer. For bards, it's performing, writing a new composition, or otherwise engaging your muse. Taking feats can give you more focus spells and increase the size of your focus pool, though your focus pool can never hold more than 3 focus points. So even if I get 4 focus spells, my focus pool will only ever have 3 focus points in it. Casting any of your focus spells costs you 1 focus point. Some abilities allow you to increase the number of your focus pool, the number of focus points in your pool. Yeah, so this is all the same information that I just went over. Here's a concentrate activity. You spend 10 minutes performing deeds to restore your magical connection. The deeds you need to perform are specified in the class or ability that gives you your focus spells. These deeds can usually overlap with other tasks that relate to the source of your focus spells. For instance, a cleric with focus spells from a good deity can usually refocus while tending the wounds of their allies, and a wizard with the illusionist school might be able to refocus while attempting to identify magic of the illusion school. So this is an activity that you can perform while doing other things. It's possible to gain focus spells from more than one source. If you do this, you only have 1 focus pool. So you don't have to track, like... If, for example, I wanted to play as a multi-class, and I will get into multi-classing in a bit, I promise. If you wanted to play as a multi-class druid wizard, a druwizard, if you will.
Yes, the drizzard.
The drizzard. Then you could end up with like 2 focus points, but it doesn't matter that one is from a druid and one is from a wizard. You can use both for either. Yeah. Proficiency rank. So there are also some non-spellcasting classes. It lists the monk as an example because they get key points, which are focus points in this game. So it's the same thing. It will provide you a proficiency rank for spell attack rolls and spell DCs, which, again, to remind people, is like, for my bard, spell attack roll is your spellcasting ability modifier, which in my case is my charisma, your proficiency bonus, any other bonuses you get and penalties, and the spell DC is equal to that plus 10. And you start off as trained, but your proficiency bonus increases with level. Okay. We talked about innate spells briefly when we did Garandale's magic. Now we get on to casting spells. The casting of a spell can range from a simple word of magical might that creates a fleeting effect to a complex process taking minutes or hours to cast and producing a long-term impact. Casting a spell is a special activity that takes a number of actions defined by the spell. When you cast a spell, your spellcasting creates obvious visual manifestations of the gathering magic, although feats such as Conceal Spell and Melodious Spell can help hide such manifestations or otherwise prevent observers from noticing that you are casting. So this is what you were asking about, making your sigils and being sneaky about
it.
Yeah. Casting a spell takes a variable number of actions as listed in each spell stat block, so using Unseen Servant as an example, this takes 3 actions. It has the material component, a somatic component, and a verbal component. So I have to do 1 of each of these actions. The spell components Longer casting times. So some spells have take minutes to cast rather than just a couple of actions. So you can't use these in combat. But yeah, so maybe you have to spend like 10 minutes casting a spell. Each spell lists the components used to cast it. These add traits and requirements to the caster's spell activity. So the manipulate, material and somatic give it the manipulate trait, and verbal gives it the concentrate trait. And these are, again, they have specific, like, they're mainly to do with interactions, but they do have a little bit of specific things. Manipulate often triggers reactions. You must physically manipulate an item or make gestures to use an action with this trait. So this says that you can't do it while your hands are bound. Metamagic. Many spellcasters can gain access to metamagic actions. Use a metamagic action directly before the spell you want to alter. Any additional effects added by a metamagic action are part of the spell's effect, not the metamagic action. So extending the spell's range or causing the spell to deal increased damage, those are added to the spell, so they're part of the spell effect. Components and substitutions. A spell description lists the components required to cast a spell. I've just looked, we're still only halfway through this page. Magic is always like the most complicated thing.
Yes, there's a good reason I've ignored it every single time.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, a lot of this is like it's got a little diagram here about areas and targets. A lot of this stuff is like more not quite so immediately important. But yeah, I'll skip over a couple of bits. But yeah, you can substitute components. So if you're a bard, you can play an instrument for spells requiring somatic or material components, as long as it takes at least one of your hands to do so. If you use an instrument, you don't need a material component pouch or another hand free. You can usually also play an instrument for spells requiring verbal components instead of speaking. But this is it doesn't remove those actions. So the instrument, using the instrument, for example, I could spend 3 actions playing the flute to conjure my unseen servant, but it would still take 3 actions. I couldn't just play my flute once and that would be like enough, you know? I have to do it once for each of them. Similarly, clerics can use their religious symbols or holy texts. Druids can use things like holly and mistletoe. And sorcerers basically just draw magic directly from their blood.
Which is always fun.
Material components are like specific physical things, like a bit of eggshell or a lock of somebody's hair. Except in extreme circumstances, you can assume all common components are included in a material component pouch. So unless it says that there's something else you need, something specific you need, or you're looking for something rare, you only need this material component pouch. And the spell components themselves are considered to have no value, so you don't need to actually track what's on it or pay to top it up or anything like that.
It's just a sort of tiny little pouch full of whatever you probably need in enough amounts, and don't look into it any further.
Yeah, I mean this game doesn't actually list like what the material components are, which is something I do kind of miss. Like older versions were like, oh, you need a single eyelash encased in amber, or you need a handful of sulfur mixed with bat guano or something. So yeah, it's a bit of flavor which is missing from this one, but I don't know. You can add it back in.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. It's fun.
It's fun.
I like knowing all the random little weird bits of stuff that are in things.
I mean, it really does feel like One thing I've been super interested in recently is like traditional folkloric magic, like the superstitions around. I don't know, just like living in the UK. We've got a lot of our pagan beliefs are still in evidence in some communities and in some aspects of our everyday life. And just thinking about those superstitions and that folk magic, it's just really interesting to me.
Mm-hmm. I gotta one of these days I gotta pull up the folk magic section of Dukas, the Irish folklore repository. There's some good stuff in there.
We should do a witching stream where we try and cast
We
real spells.
should. Yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah. Right. So, durations of spells. God, saving throws, spell attack. I mean, a lot of this information is like not super useful right now, so I think I might skip over it. But the basic things that you need to know are: if a spell says it can be sustained, you have to spend one action on each of your turns to continue sustaining it. So my Unseen Servant, for example, is sustained, which means that if I have that out, I have to spend one of my actions each turn to sustain it, or the spell goes away. And that leaves me with two other actions to do other things with, whether I want to move or attack or try casting another spell, things like that. So you can have up to 3 sustained spells, but that leaves you with no actions to do anything else. Other spells say that they can be dismissed. You have to spend one action to dismiss a spell, and that is only allowed for certain spells. It must be an effect you are allowed to dismiss as part of the spell or item. Trying to see. It will say in the spell's description if you can dismiss it. If it's not sustained and you can't dismiss it, it will last as long as it says. Oh yeah, here's the thing I was talking about earlier. If a spell's duration says it lasts until your next daily preparations, on the next day you can refrain from preparing a new spell in that spell's slot. Doing so extends the spell's duration until your next daily preparation, so you can extend it over a long period of time. If you prepare a new spell in the slot, the spell ends. Some spells have, like, if a spell doesn't list a duration, its duration is instantaneous, which means it has its effect. A spell might last until the start of... Yeah, so if a spell doesn't list a duration, it has its effect and then disappears. Any ongoing effect that isn't part of a spell's duration entry isn't considered magical. For example, a spell that creates a loud sound and has no duration might deafen someone for a time, even permanently. This deafness couldn't be counteracted because it is not in itself magical. So, there are magical effects, and there are effects that are like the result of magic, if that makes sense. Like, for example, there's magical fire, and there's using magic to conjure a spark to set fire to something. Magical fire could be dispelled by magic. Like, somebody could use another spell to come in and counteract it. Regular fire, even if it was caused by a magical spark, can only be extinguished in a normal way.
Yeah, it's just normal fire.
Normal fire, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's the difference between a spell with a duration and a spell which is instantaneous. Okay. I think that's probably all I need to go over with spells for the moment. Spell attacks, counteracting. I mean, if you need to make a spell attack, the formula for it is up here. It depends on your spell's spellcasting ability. So for a bard, it's charisma. For a sorcerer, it's charisma. For a wizard, it's intelligence. For clerics and druids, it's wisdom. Yeah. And it's the same thing for DCs. Oh, another thing that they did to make a lot of things easier is if a spell saving throw entry specifies a basic saving throw, what that means is this is how they cleaned up a lot of stuff. A lot of spells that just deal damage deal no damage on a critical success for the saving throw, half damage on a success, full damage on a failure, and double damage on a critical failure. So that's a basic saving throw. So if you see basic saving throw, that's what it means.
Okay, that is good to know.
Yeah, it's not just spells, but it is mainly spells that do basic saving throws. Alright, I think that's magic for the moment. Which means that I can probably finish making my bard. How are you getting on with your rogue? Have you picked your rogue skills?
Yes, so, okay. Let's see, what was it? So, class feature, level 1, ancestry, background, rogue feat. First level...
I mean, have you done...
Class...
Last time when I last left you, you were picking your 7 skills from being a rogue. Have you done... You finished that?
Yes, I've done that. You want me to read them out, or...?
No, it's fine. I trust you. I just wanted to make sure that you were done with it, so that we could do your other things.
Yeah, no, I've been looking at the class features while you were going on about magic. Don't worry, I wasn't paying attention at all.
Okay, perfect. Well, in that case, do you want to share with the class?
Yeah, no, so I'm looking at this and trying to figure it out. I get so many feats, apparently.
Yeah. Well, okay. Let's go over it like a thing at a time, shall we?
That would be good, yeah.
So the first thing that's listed is the Rogue's Racket, which is here. And I think we decided that because you're playing a thief, you're going to be playing a thief.
Yeah, that seems to track the best.
Okay. So, you're trained in thievery. And again, if you would have been trained in... If you were already trained in thievery, you get to put this in something else. So sorry to make you find another skill you want.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I think I'm not trained in thievery anyway.
Oh, well, now you are.
Because I got it. Because I am now, yeah. Exactly.
When you attack with a finesse weapon, you can add your dexterity modifier to damage rolls instead of your strength modifier. So finesse is usually use your strength to make melee attacks, but
for certain types of weapons.
For certain types of weapons, you can use dexterity instead. But finesse weapons, so if you are... normally finesse weapons use their dexterity to the attack roll, but still use strength for damage. So this is a unique ability for the rogue, that they get to use dexterity for damage instead of strength.
Yeah, which is good, because I have negative to strength.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, actually. Before we go anywhere else... where's the here it is. So we've done 3 steps of the ability boosts. We've picked ancestry, we've picked background, and we've picked class. After the other steps, apply 4 more ability boosts of your choice. So you get to pick 4 ability scores and boost them each by 2.
Really? Oh, wild.
Yep. So for my bard, I'm obviously going to put 1 in charisma, bringing that up to 18. I'm going to put 1 in dexterity, putting that up to 14. I'm going to put 1 in intelligence, putting that up to 14. And I'm going to put 1 in wisdom, putting that up to 12. So I'm quite a well-rounded character. And because I got another point of intelligence, or another +1 to intelligence, I now get to pick another skill. So I'm going to choose... what am I not trained in yet? I'm going to choose... Yeah, I'll choose religion. I'll choose religion. There we are.
Perfect.
Perfect. So I presume you've picked dexterity for your thief?
I have indeed.
Have you picked... what else have you put it in?
Well, let's see. Okay, so from background, I also had... No, wait, was it from this? Yeah, it was background. So background, I needed to do either intelligence or wisdom. Went with wisdom, actually.
Okay. And then the free one went in Dex.
And the free one went in Dex. So for these ones again, I've gone with. I've confused myself now, but it was Dex, Constitution, Intelligence, and then another one in Wisdom.
Perfect. Remember that you, when you get boosts from the same source, they have to each go into a different score. So that's just a little reminder for everybody at home.
Yeah, I figured I couldn't bump 4 boosts into Dex.
No.
Yeah.
Your ability scores at the end of character creation, you can have an 18. This is the thing that I kind of like about this game. 18 is like really good, and you're pretty much guaranteed to get an 18 in your key ability. Another way to check if you've done everything correctly: add up all of these numbers. They should add up to 10. No, sorry, they should add up to 9.
That would make sense.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the version I have hasn't been filling them in, but
Oh.
I can take. Yeah, it's fine. I can. That's not important. I can take it off of your one.
In that case, I should probably mention how to calculate the ability modifier from the ability score.
Would be a good thing to look at. Yeah.
Yeah, because I've just been sort of like taking this for granted. Essentially, like every 2 points above 10 equates to a +1 bonus to the modifier. But to get more specific, let me. I've got so many tabs open.
I have done them all correctly anyway. Just using that, I've added them up. It's fine.
Perfect. Let's just go this whole chapter, and I'll see if I can find. There should be a table for it. But yeah, each 2 points in an ability score translates to a +1 bonus to the modifier. With calculate modifiers. Record class details, finishing details. Start building ability scores. Yeah, so essentially, like, for an easy way to remember it is like it changes on the even number, it goes up. Okay, I'm just gonna make this is just making it more complicated. Hang on,
Yeah, I see where you're coming from. Yeah. It changes on the evens, but it would stay the same if you're.
So if you're counting up, it changes on the evens. So 8 means -1. If I somehow got a 9, that would also be -1. If I went down to 7, that would be -2.
Yeah.
Oh, hang on, I found it. Page 20. PG 20. There we go. Number 1 is a -5 modifier. 2 to 3 is a -4 modifier. 4 to 5, yeah. So this. Oh, I just realized. There we are. That's what we're looking for. This table. So yeah, it goes up on the even. So yeah, 8 to 9 is -1, 6 to 7 is -2, 4 to 5 is -3. There we are. That's the table you're looking for.
Perfect.
So if you add up all of the ability modifiers you have after checking with this table, from character creation you should have 9, which is what I have. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, -1 makes 9. Okay. So if you've done your ability modifiers now, Barak.
Yep, all should be fine.
Perfect. Then let's go back into your rogue stuff. Have you put your thief racket in your class feats and abilities section on page 2 of your character sheet?
I have indeed. Feature first, isn't it?
Feature first, that's right.
Yeah. Now, the next thing that we get is... Right.
The next thing
Rogue.
is sneak attack 1d6.
Mm-hmm.
So, sneak attack, when your enemy can't properly defend itself, you can take advantage to deal extra damage. If you strike a creature that has the flat-footed condition with an agile or finesse melee weapon, an agile or finesse unarmed attack, or a ranged weapon attack, you deal an extra 1d6 precision damage. For a ranged attack with a thrown melee weapon, that weapon must also be agile or finesse. So you get extra damage dice at 5th, 11th, and 17th levels. So at 17th, by 17th, it's up to 4d6 for a sneak attack. And enemies are flat-footed if you manage to sneak up on them using stealth. If you are flanking them with an ally, and there are some other abilities that can make them flat-footed as well.
Yeah. Which is grand. And then we get surprise attack as well.
Yep. You spring into combat faster than foes can react. On the first round of combat, if you roll deception or stealth for initiative, creatures that haven't acted yet are flat-footed to you. Now, what this means is, in some editions, initiative is based off dexterity, but in Pathfinder 2nd edition, you usually use perception to roll initiative.
Interesting.
Except if you're sneaking, or if you're trying to trick somebody, you would roll deception or stealth. You could roll different things for initiative depending on the circumstance, but it's usually perception.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
That's a good one.
Yeah. So you can add surprise attack down as well.
I'll put them both in the same thing.
Sneak attack and surprise attack.
Yeah.
Okay.
Since they kind of feed into each other as well.
They do, yeah.
Yeah.
Alright. So we've got sneak attack 1d6, surprise attack, rogue feat, and skill feat. So let's check out rogue feats. At first level and every even-numbered level, you gain a rogue class feat. So let's go over to the rogue class feats.
Make sure we look at core.
Make sure we look at core. Make sure we only look at first level ones.
And the filters really don't want to work on mine. Because I'm using Firefox.
Yeah, I'll... Come on.
I have them here anyway, it's fine.
Okay. Well, let's have a look at the first level rogue feats you can pick from. I think there probably are quite a lot of good ones, or certainly interesting ones for a thief.
At level 1, there's one. That can't be right.
There's only one first level rogue feat? That really doesn't sound right. Let me get there.
That definitely doesn't sound right. Yeah.
I think I know the problem. Did we turn off the chat? No. The chat's been running the whole time. I just haven't been displaying it on stream. It's just been pretty quiet because I imagine the class has been wrapped in attention. So I think the reason for this,
by all the magic talk.
The reason for this is some rogue feats are also swashbuckler feats. And the swashbuckler was introduced in the advanced player's guide. So some of the rogue feats are good. So just do core rulebook and advanced player, like nimble dodge here. Actually, I have the book here, so I'll read off the list for you.
Okay, yeah, fair enough.
Rogue. Your options are nimble dodge, which lets you use your reaction to get a +2 bonus to AC. Trap Finder, which gives you a bonus to perception checks to find traps. Twin Feint, which lets you use two weapons, both against the same target, whether they're automatically flat-footed against the second attack.
Cool.
And You're Next, which when you down a foe, you menacingly remind another foe that you're coming after them next, which lets you try and intimidate them. So for you, I think probably Nimble Dodge or Trap Finder is probably the best.
I'm leaning Trap Finder personally.
Trap Finder also lets you use Thievery to disable traps, like to use lockpicks to spring traps and things like that.
That would be very handy.
Yeah. Should we go for Trap Finder then?
I'm thinking Trap Finder.
Trap Finder General. Oh yeah, so see here on my screen, Trap Finder is also an investigator feat. So it got updated to be an advanced player's guide feat, which is it's difficult.
It's very confusing for filtering purposes.
It is very confusing. Yeah. So yeah, you can put Trap Finder in your class feats and abilities feat section here, where I've put Versatile Performance.
Nah, I'm just a couple seconds behind on stream, so I'm just going to wait for a second. You can read out what it says on the right.
I can read out what... Well, I was just saying, like, you can put it in this slot. Feat first on class
Perfect.
feats and abilities thing.
Yep, that's all I need.
Which is also how Garandale is going to approach obstacles. Feet first.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Okay. So, you've taken your rogue feat, and you also get a skill feat. Now,
I was looking at, and I'm very interested in that.
Skill feats are... skill and general feats are things that are not related to specific class training. So the list is shared by all the classes. So I'm just going to quickly filter this to core rulebook, and also filter it to just level 1. Yeah, so these represent like areas of training. All kinds of experience and training can shape your character beyond what you learn by advancing in your class. Abilities that require a degree of training but that can be learned by anyone, not only by members of certain ancestries or classes, are called general feats, and skill feats are a specific subset of those, which is what we have here. So did I turn that on? Did I correctly filter this? I just forgot to click apply, I think. Well. Yeah, so you get to pick any one of these. I was looking at this earlier, actually, because each skill feat is associated with a specific skill. And I was thinking, as you're going to be playing a thief, I looked at the stealth and thievery skill feats. So
Those are my main ones here.
At first level, you have the options of Experienced Smuggler, which lets you conceal items from observers more effectively, like hiding objects on your body. Terrain Stalker, which that's more for like an outdoorsy kind of wildernessy stealthy guy, like a naked snake kind of guy.
And I was looking at these earlier as well. It does say rubble as well, so...
Okay, so that would let you do it in like the ruins of a town, but not in somebody's attic unless they really forgot to clean up, you know?
Unless it's a really dirty attic.
And for thievery, you get pickpocket, which lets you steal or palm objects more effectively, and subtle theft, which is pretty much exactly what it sounds like. Make your thefts harder to notice.
Subtle theft is what I'm leaning towards at the moment.
Okay.
Although there's a whole bunch that I want, but apparently I get more every level. So
yes, rogues. This is the thing. Rogues, they don't get magic like bards or sorcerers or whatever. They don't get access to strong weapons and armor. They don't get any of the special things that the other characters get. But they are the best skill monkeys. They get skill feats more than anybody else. They get skill increases, which is what lets you put things up to expert more than anybody else. Like if we look at the table, where is it? Skill increases. At second level and every level thereafter, you gain a skill increase, which either lets you become trained in one skill you're untrained in, or become an expert in one skill in which you are already trained. So yeah, rogues can become an expert in something by really early on, and at 7th level they can start becoming masters, and at 15th level they can become legendary. And that's, yeah, it's really quick compared to everybody else. They don't get a lot of super flashy stuff like druids or barbarians, but they get so many skills.
Just ridiculous numbers of skills.
Ridiculous numbers of skills.
For the moment, I am, I'm thinking subtle theft.
Okay.
I was looking at some of the ones that required training in acrobatics as well.
Like first floor work or something. I don't know if that's a feat.
I don't know either, but that sounds fun.
Catfall, quick squeeze, and steady balance, the acrobatics ones.
Yeah, catfall is what I was looking at, because that would be fairly useful.
Yeah, just jump out of a window and take nothing from it.
Yeah, so I guess I'm stuck between subtle theft and catfall.
That is difficult.
It's a hard one. Am I gonna be stealing stuff in front of other people or jumping out of windows more often?
Well, you can always take one now and take another one at second level.
That's true. I definitely can. But then second level skills open up, and maybe there's stuff in it. It's too much choice.
No, it's difficult. There are a lot of even just limiting stuff to the core rulebook. There are so many options. But I think we can rule out a whole bunch of things. You're probably not going to be using Arcana or Medicine or Survival or any of those things. Parkour. Parkour.
I did actually put a training in Medicine, but I'm probably not going to be using anything from it beyond that.
Yeah. Well, that's fair enough. Yeah. So I don't know. It's entirely up to you.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna go with subtle theft.
Okay.
Yeah, that sounds like the best option.
Yeah.
Let's go with that.
Perfect.
And character sheet. Subtle theft.
Okay. So that's your skill feat. And I think that's all we need to do for first level. Which means we've done step 3. Hang on, where's the player's guide? We've done this one. We've taken skills. We've done feats. Now we need to do equipment. Do you want to do equipment?
Oh, hell yeah. This is my favorite bit.
So, I will quickly... I'll quickly summarize equipment. Equipment covers things like armor, shields, and weapons, which is... Oh yeah, okay. I'll middle click on some of these things, and armor, shields, and weapons obviously is to protect, looking to protect yourself or deal some damage, that sort of thing. The armor that you are able to use effectively is dictated by your class. So the rogue, I think, gets light armor and simple weapons plus a bunch of other specific weapons.
We get light armor and unarmed. And
yes.
Just a bunch of weapons.
So one thing that I would like to talk about with weapons, just like everything else in this game, weapons can have traits. Traits. Okay. I've currently got it set up too small to display the traits. But I will.
Wonderful.
I'll tell you what. We'll take the just like a dagger as an example, I guess, because that's pretty simple. The rapier and longsword are usually really, really good choices. Like the longsword is one of those things that is almost always just the best option. But yeah, let's look at the dagger. Let's look at the dagger. So here it says category simple, hands 1, traits. Oh, I should probably talk about bulk as well. In this game, rather than keeping track of how heavy objects are in like pounds and ounces, this game abstracts it into a thing called bulk. You can carry an amount of bulk equal to... One second, let me look it up. 5 plus your strength modifier, which would be 4 in the case of a gnome. Anything with an L on it is called light bulk, and 10 of those make 1 bulk. So you could carry 10 daggers before they start to count as 1. If you carry fewer than 10, if you carry 9, they don't count as anything. So that's an abstraction for you. Weapons. Sorry.
Just that's a fun. It's a fun system, but yeah, that is funny
it's,
that if you carry 9 daggers, it's nothing.
It's nice and simple. Like, it's one of those things where whenever you're making a game like this, you have to make compromises on like verisimilitude. Like, you have to decide, am I going to make this game realistic, or am I going to make this game accessible and fun to play? And like, I don't know, fun is subjective. Like, some people really enjoy all the bookkeeping that comes with that sort of thing, and you know, more power to them. But bulk is one of those compromises that I think works really elegantly. There are a couple of edge cases, like for example carrying 9 daggers, and like not being weighed down at all. There are a couple of those edge cases where it does seem a bit silly, but for the most part it works nicely, because bulk is also an abstraction of how clumsy an object is. Like, you know, in some editions you could just fill up a rucksack with 10-foot poles. Well, in this game, 10-foot poles have more bulk than their weight would suggest. Like, because they're not heavy, they're just awkward to carry around.
Because they're 10 foot long.
Because they're 10 foot long, exactly. So it's an abstraction of weight, but also unwieldiness. Which I think is nice. I think it works nicely. For the most part, though, I'm never usually super anal when it comes to tracking these sorts of things. Normally, I just say, like, you know, use your best judgment, players, and they don't like fill up their horses' saddlebags with ladders or whatever. So it's fine.
Yeah. Most of the games I've played, it does work on the don't take the piss rules.
Yeah. I mean, I have tried at certain points to do, like, enforce it really strictly and be like, because like I tried doing a bunch of wilderness survival games where like the characters get shipwrecked on an island and it's like, oh, you have to think about what you're going to be able to carry. But in most cases, it doesn't. They're not carrying enough to make it worth bothering about, and it wasn't something that I, as the GM, could be bothered with. Benedict Cumbersome, exactly. It wasn't something that I, as the GM, could be bothered with. So I just said, yeah, you know what, just be reasonable. And yeah, you might get some GMs who are more likely to track it, but you know, it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, I mean, if I take a bow, are you the type of GM that's gonna make me count my arrows?
No, but I'm gonna say, like, you know, if you shoot 100 orcs, I'm gonna say when you get back to town, yeah, maybe you should spend some of your loot on arrows. But like, arrows are one of those things that, you know, standard arrows are very quickly, and standard adventuring gear as well is like, you very quickly accrue enough gold as an adventurer to afford any sort of mundane equipment that you need.
Yeah.
It's
Your
only when
basic
you're
upkeep.
yeah, it's only when you're starting out that you need to really worry about that sort of thing. Okay, so this is what a weapon stat block looks like. The favored weapon is all for clerics, so you can just ignore that. Price. There are 3 denominations of coins in this game. Copper pieces are the smallest. 10 copper pieces make 1 silver piece, which is the main currency, and 10 silver pieces make a gold piece. All player characters start with 15 gold pieces to outfit their character, which is a pretty decent amount. Like, you can usually get
Yeah, that's a good amount.
yeah, you can get a lot of stuff for 15 gold pieces. It tells you how many hands it uses. This is important. This is important because, like, there are lots of things where you need to have a hand free to do it. And obviously,
Does it ever go above 2?
no, there are no dry handers in this game.
Dang it.
Well,
Right.
not yet. We could homebrew it. It's got a weapon group as well. There are some things which refer to a weapon group. Like some fighter training is like, you deal extra damage with weapons in a certain group. So this is just sort of like which weapons are all clumped together. And obviously a dagger is a sort of knife, but like, and then it's got these traits. And if you look at it on Archives of Nethys, all of the traits are laid out here very nicely. So Agile, okay, I need to talk about like making attack rolls and the multiple attack penalty. So you know when I said earlier, you get 3 actions per turn, and you can use all of them to attack if you like? Well,
Yeah.
when you make multiple attacks in a turn, the second and subsequent attacks take a penalty. It's usually -5 and then -10, which means at first level you're really unlikely to hit with a third attack. But an agile weapon is only -4, -8. So the second attack takes a -4 penalty, the third and subsequent attacks take a -8 penalty.
Which is still a decent amount, but...
Which is still a decent amount. But like an agile weapon is... one thing that I see a lot of people doing is a dagger. Like, this game doesn't have handedness, so you don't have to like track one weapon. One hand is your main hand, and the other hand is your offhand. So a lot of people will have like a long sword in one hand and a short sword in the other. I think a short sword is agile. So the long sword deals more damage, so you use that one for your first attack. But the short sword is more likely to hit on every subsequent attack. So one big attack to start with, and then your subsequent attacks are made with a less penalty.
That is a smart way to do it.
The finesse trait, like we were saying, you can use your dexterity modifier instead of your strength modifier on attack rolls using this melee weapon. Attack rolls are just it's the same sort of proficiency rank. So if you're trained in a weapon, you add your level and then you add 2. If you're an expert in it, you add your level, you add 4, and so on. And then you add your strength modifier to a melee weapon attack roll, or your dexterity modifier to a ranged weapon attack roll. But you still add your strength modifier for a finesse weapon. And thrown weapons as well. You use your dexterity modifier for the... dexterity modifier for the attack roll, your strength modifier to the damage roll. So a knife, for example, for me as a bard without Boric's weapon finesse from being a thief, I'm trained in the dagger, and because it's got the finesse trait, I can add I'll actually pull up my character sheet. One sec. So attacks are in this thing here, this section here. So you see you've got little axe heads for your melee attacks and arrow heads for your ranged attacks. So this weapon will be a dagger. So my strength is currently -1. No, sorry. I'll use my dex to hit for this because it's a finesse weapon. So my dexterity is currently +2. So my dex is +2. My proficiency is trained, and that creates my attack roll. So I get +5 to hit, and then on the subsequent attack it would be +1, and then it would be -3 to hit. Which is not great odds. Not great odds. So I probably won't be doing 3 attacks in one round at first level. Dice 1d4, and strength is -1. So I'll be doing somewhere from 0 to 3 damage when I hit with this dagger. Burrick, on the other hand, has first of all, has 8 dexterity. So 18 dexterity, so he gets to add 4 to that. Right? So you get +7 on your first attack.
Yep.
And you also get to add your dexterity modifier to the damage, which is going to be +4. So while I'll be dealing anywhere from 0 to 3 damage, Burrick is dealing anywhere from 5 to 8 damage with the same attack.
Which is pretty nice.
That's if you choose to use a dagger. There are other things as well. I don't want to get too into the weeds when it comes to adventuring gear, but it's all the usual sort of stuff. I've explained the details about how weapons work, which I think is probably enough for now. There are a lot of skill things. For example, you can't use medicine to treat somebody's wounds unless you have a healer's kit, and you can't mix up potions while you're out in the wilderness unless you have a portable alchemist's kit. Things like that. There's also a bunch of mundane gear, is this the adventuring gear tab? Yeah, here. Again, core rulebook. Also, things like candle and chalk. Obviously, candles shed light. Chalk is used for marking things. A mug is used for drinking. Oil used for filling up a lamp. It's all just basic standard adventurer's gear stuff. A bedroll to keep you warm at night. A 10-foot ladder. And yeah, here's the thing.
50 feet of rope?
50 feet of rope. Did you see that, or did I scroll past it?
Well, I'm looking at my own one, but it's everyone has 50 feet of rope.
Everyone has 50 feet of rope, yeah. 5 silver pieces for 50 feet of rope. Yeah, it's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
You can buy a chest, you can buy a hooded lantern, a fishing tackle, a compass. And a lot of these things don't have any specific
mechanical things.
Thank you. You found the word I was looking for. Some of them do, compasses, for example, give you a bonus to avoid getting lost in the wilderness. Oh, sorry. Without a compass, you take a -2 item penalty to these checks. I don't know if that's actually listed in the item check section. If it's not, that's actually really badly designed, because that's you wouldn't know that you take that penalty unless you look at the item, which is supposed to give you a bonus for it. So
that's not a good way around to do it.
Oh no, it does say in the book, without a compass, you take a -2 item penalty to sense direction.
Fair enough.
So yeah, that's fine. And a lensatic compass gives you a +1 bonus to these checks. One thing that is important in Pathfinder is that a +1 bonus, although the numbers get big pretty quickly, we were just looking at Burrick's attacks. Sorry, I just need to find my mouse. +7 to hit is quite a lot, but increasing that +7 to +8 is nothing to sneeze at. Getting a +1 bonus to a check, if you consider the basic check is a D20 roll, which is what's used for skills, for attacks, for saving throws, for perception, for all these sorts of things. So you roll a D20, you add your modifier, and if it meets or exceeds the difficulty class set by the game master, you succeed. Otherwise, you fail. I realize I probably should have explained how checks are made earlier, because I thought it was just.
These are things you don't think of until we get to them. I mean, we haven't really been talking about checks until now.
That's true. I mean, we
But
talked about skill proficiencies, but we didn't talk about how to make a skill check.
yeah.
So let's talk about that now. The basic mechanic of Pathfinder is the D20 roll. You roll your die, you add your thing. Like if you wanted to make a will saving throw, you'd roll a D20, you'd add your will, and then you'd say, does this beat or exceed? Does this meet or exceed the difficulty class as set by the game master? And similarly, all creatures have an armor class. And when you're making an attack roll, that's what you're rolling against. So this is Burrick's melee attack. So he rolls d20 plus 7, and if he meets or exceeds 15, he hits me with this attack. So we'd only have to roll an 8 on the dice. There are also other bonuses. There are things like circumstance bonuses, which are sort of to do with the time or the way in which you're doing something. There's status bonuses. Let me see if I can find the list, actually. There's a player's guide. Player's guide. Getting started? Efficiency bonus. Ability score. Okay, I think it must be in the rules section rather than anywhere else. Control F. Check. Check. Yeah, so this is what I was saying earlier. It's like your character will face situations where the outcome is uncertain. We use the dice to inject uncertainty because uncertainty adds tension. Rolling high.
It wouldn't be any fun. Wouldn't be any fun if you could just succeed on everything you say you're gonna do.
Again, it's the everything proof shield thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like every character needs to be able to fail, otherwise they're not relatable and they're not interesting. Yeah. Once the check, if the result is equal to... Oh, this is another thing I should mention. This is something that they made in Pathfinder 2nd Edition that doesn't exist in Pathfinder 1st Edition. So a critical success is usually what we call a natural 20, which is when the die is on a 20 before you add anything. And rolling a 1 is a critical failure. Rolling a natural 1. But also in Pathfinder 2nd Edition, a critical success can be when you beat the DC by 10 or more. So going back to this example where Burrick's trying to stab me with a dagger because he's being mean to me. So my AC is 15. If Burrick rolls an 8 or above, he manages to hit and deals me anywhere from 5 to 8 points of damage. If he rolls, if his total is 17 or more, so if he rolls a 10 on the die or more, then it's a critical success and he'll deal double the damage. So rather than anywhere from 5 to 8, he'll deal anywhere from 10 to 16 damage to me.
Woohoo!
And he only needs to roll a 10 on the die to do that. So that's better than 50-50 odds to stab me.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty good. So, there are also... that's about proficiency. Can I... Control F. Check. Bonuses and penalties. Hang on. There we are. There are several types of bonuses and penalties. If you have more than one bonus of the same type, you use only the highest bonus, and you use only the worst penalty of each type. Is the bonus? That's proficiency bonuses. Bonuses, proficiency bonus. Okay, it must be elsewhere. But yeah, I think there's... Give me a second. I'm gonna consult the actual tome.
Sure.
Hang on.
It's always nice to have the physical book.
Yeah, I would really recommend people, if you want to get into Pathfinder 2nd Edition, do actually pick up the book. It's really good. It's a nice thing to own. It's beautifully illustrated. It's quite well laid out, although it is really heavy. Like, it's 600 and something pages long.
You have the hardback or paperback?
I have the hardback.
Nice.
So
Always
this
go
was
for the
actually
hardback.
the book that prompted me to get a reading stand. It's like I have a little lectern sitting on my desk.
That's so cool.
Yep. I really feel like a proper nerd now. Like, actually having a... It's also good, like, I own a couple of art books. So it's nice to just, like, have them sitting open on a page.
Honestly, game manuals probably make fairly decent coffee table books.
Yeah. Definitely.
So even if you never play, just, it's good for entertaining.
Yeah, flick through the pictures and stuff. Right, bonuses and penalties. Bonuses and penalties. Right. There are 3 different ways that you can get bonuses and penalties, and they are circumstance, status, and item. Circumstance, status, and item. Yes. Circumstance bonuses, item bonuses, and status bonuses. If you have different types of bonuses that would apply to the same role, add them all. But if you have multiple bonuses of the same type, only add the highest one, so they don't stack.
Okay, that's a good one.
Circumstance bonuses typically involve the situation. Item bonuses are granted by some item, and status bonuses usually come from spells, other magical effects, or something applying a helpful, often temporary condition to you, like the heroism spell. Penalties work the same way. You can have circumstance, status, and sometimes item penalties. Like bonuses, you only apply the worst of all the penalties of the same type. So you don't apply... Oh, my avatar has finally decided to load it.
He hung in there for a good while.
Yeah, he hung in there for a good while. I got Book. Just took a while to load it. You can also have untyped penalties. You can't have untyped bonuses. So sometimes an effect will just say you get a -2 penalty to this. And if it doesn't specify, it's untyped. And you always add all the untyped penalties, rather than just taking the worst one. So there's not a lot of things that can give you untyped penalties. Usually they'll just give you circumstance or status, or rarely item. It's usually just circumstance or status. So yeah, that's that.
Good to know, though.
Good to know. So that's how you do skill checks and attack rolls and saving throws. They all work the same way. I think... Have we pretty much covered everything? Hang on, I want to check.
We're pretty much near the end.
We've done all the... Apart from my spells and our equipment, I think we've done everything on the character sheet, which is the main thing from this... the main thing for this stream.
Once we start getting down to, like, what we're putting in our backpacks, that's usually the good indication that we're near the end.
Yeah. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else I've missed. We've done... I mean, I could talk about modes of play for a second. Because, like I say, exploration is the time you usually find yourself in when you're just like, the game master says, what would you like to do? And you'd be like, I'd like to investigate this suspicious looking rock. And things like that.
The talkie parts.
The talkie parts, yeah. Encounters are more structured. Encounters can also be talkie parts. It could be an encounter where you're negotiating something and there's a back and forth, but not like just regular friendly dialogue or anything. There's also downtime, which is like the respite from the world's troubles and a chance to rest and train for future expeditions. So downtime is usually there are a couple of activities that you can undertake during downtime. Things like crafting. If you want to make magic items, you could do that during downtime. And there's also a special thing called retraining, which if you made a decision about your character you didn't like, retraining offers you a chance to change it, but for a cost. That's the way it works, like, canonically, though. It's something that I'm always like, if a player is not enjoying playing their character, I'll usually just let them change it without too much trouble, unless it's like a really drastic change. But the canonical way is you spend downtime, you find a trainer, you pay them some money, and you can change your training that way, which is fun. It's nice to have the option, you know?
Yeah, I'm glad they put in a proper way to do it.
Exploration, reading.
And downtime is usually not as heavily role-played or even not role-played at all, right?
Yeah, exactly. Usually the game master just says something like, oh, you know, you've got a couple of weeks until your next adventure, and then you're like, okay, cool, I'll do some crafting. Downtime can be an opportunity for some events to happen. Ow! Just
careful.
Okay. Yeah, I'm fine. Just dropped my keyboard on my foot. It's fine.
Ouch.
Like downtime can be an opportunity for the game master to inject like plot hooks and things like that. Like if your character, for example, wants to run a business, if Garandale decided to open up an ale house, it could be that during the day-to-day operations, somebody comes in asking to deliver a letter, and then that's a quest hook, or maybe you make a relationship with an NPC, which develops into a lucrative business contract, or even just making friends and stuff. That's all stuff that can happen in downtime. So I think a good way to put it is like downtime mode is when your character probably doesn't feel the need to be wearing armor, and when they don't need to sleep on a bedroll.
Unless they feel like it.
Unless they feel like it. Some people are more comfortable that way, and I'm not gonna blame them. Right, I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I haven't covered. Let me check my notes, because I made some rather thorough notes. Basic mechanics of D20 roll. Yeah, no, you would never have guessed, would you? I'll tell you what. I'm gonna go back to the character sheet and just go over it one thing at a time. And
do we care about alignment?
Alignment is. I mean, are you asking, do we care about explaining it on stream, or do I personally care about it as a game master? Because
You personally care about it.
Alignment is interesting. Alignment is essentially a display of morality. It's a simplification of morals and ethics of your character. It's rated on 2 axes. You can be from lawful to chaotic, and you can be from good to evil. I usually make my characters like... I think most people in the world are neutral good. They want to help other people. They have reasonable respect for legitimate authority, but they're not going to like bend over backwards to enforce it and things like that. I think, yeah, so a lawful good character respects legitimate authority and protects protects those sorts of things. Neutral good people put other people, like, trying to even explain it is hard, because it's such an oversimplification of a very complex moral issue. Let me resort to the book again. Alignment. I will just read verbatim what they talk about.
Probably for the best, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of opinions about, well, I don't know if you can call them opinions when you're talking about philosophy. I have a lot of philosophy about morality, and I find alignment to be often a useful tool, but it's something that I don't personally use in my campaigns. Your character's alignment is an indication of their morality and personality. There are 9 possible alignments. Lawful good, lawful neutral, lawful evil, neutral good, true neutral, neutral evil, chaotic good, chaotic neutral, chaotic evil. If your alignment has any components other than neutral, your character gains the traits of those alignment components. This might affect the way various spells, items, and creatures interact with your character. So, for example, there's an item called Holy Water, which deals good damage. Good damage only affects evil creatures. So it would affect zombies, it would affect vampires, it would affect ghosts, but it would also affect villains.
Jerks.
It would also, it would affect jerks. Your character's alignment is measured by 2 pairs of opposed values, the axis of good and evil, and the axis of law and chaos. A character who isn't committed strongly to either side is neutral on that axis. Keep in mind, though, that alignment is a complicated subject, and even acts that might be considered good can be used for nefarious purposes and vice versa. The GM is the arbiter of questions about how specific actions might affect your character's alignment. If you play a champion, which is the class which is Paladin is now a specific subclass of champion. So they used to be called Paladins, now they're called champions. Your character's alignment must be 1 allowed for the deity, and if you play a cleric, your character's alignment must be 1 allowed for their deity. Good and evil. Your character has a good alignment if they consider the happiness of others above their own and work selflessly to assist others, even those who aren't friends and family. They are also good if they value protecting others from harm, even if doing so puts the character in danger. Your character has an evil alignment if they're willing to victimize others for their own selfish gain, and even more so if they enjoy inflicting harm. If your character falls somewhere in the middle, they're likely neutral on this axis. So yeah, it's basically like, do you care about others more than yourself, or do you care about yourself more than others? Law and chaos. Your character has a lawful alignment if they value consistency, stability, and predictability over flexibility. Lawful characters have a set system in life, whether it's meticulously planning day-to-day activities. Oh, excuse me, got the hiccup. Just one. Carefully following a set of official or unofficial laws, or strictly adhering to a code of honor. On the other hand, if your character values flexibility, creativity, and spontaneity over consistency, they have a chaotic alignment, though this doesn't mean that they make decisions by choosing randomly. Chaotic characters might believe that lawful characters are too inflexible to judge each situation by its own merits or take advantage of opportunities, while lawful characters believe that chaotic characters are irresponsible and flighty. Many characters are in the middle, obeying the law or following a code of conduct in many situations, but bending the rules when the situation requires it. If your character is in the middle, they are neutral on this axis. One of the best examples I can think of illustrating law versus chaos is Les Miserables. Because the conflict in that is not good versus evil. Jean Valjean and Javert, no first name given, they're both good characters, but Javert is lawful good. He believes in the law and believes in strictly enforcing it and never deviating from it, whereas Javert is chaotic good. He believes it's okay to break the law if doing so results in good for more people. So that's
a good way to do it.
I honestly, Javert is one of my favorite villains of all time, because he's the one that I always point to when I say, look, the villain doesn't have to be evil. The villain can be a good person.
He's also got some really good songs.
Oh my gosh, yes. Stars gives me shivers every time. Yeah, so that's how to rate your character. Lawful to chaotic and good to evil. I've put down my character's alignment as chaotic good, which means that they usually consider others' well-being above their own, but they're not likely to. They're flexible when it comes to following the law. They're a bit of a scoundrel, but they're a selfless scoundrel. They're sort of a Robin Hood kind of figure. What about you, Burrick?
I suppose Garendel would be chaotic neutral.
Okay, he does what's best for himself, although doesn't go out of his way to put other people in harm.
Yeah.
And he's very flexible when it comes to the law and things like that.
Very, very flexible.
Very flexible.
Oh, actually, I could put him as lawful neutral and just say that he has a very inflexible code about the law, which is to break it.
Yeah, I mean, lawful doesn't necessarily mean following the literal law. It could be a personal code of conduct.
Yeah.
Somebody who has their own principles and refuses to compromise on them. That would be a lawful character, even if those principles are not necessarily aligned with the law of the land.
Exactly.
I need to name my character. I always find names the hardest thing in role-playing games.
Names are the hardest thing, which is why I'm glad you guys gave me one instead.
Well, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay. I had my background was gambler. Your character will have a number of traits which are usually defined by their ancestry. So I'm going to put that down. I think gnome and humanoid. And again, these traits determine how certain spells and features interact with them. You start off with 0 experience points, and when you get to 1,000, you level up. I will do a future stream about leveling up characters, because there's a lot of interesting things when you get beyond first level, like multi-classing. Hero points. Hero points are sort of like inspiration in D&D, except you get them, rather than for like good role-playing and stuff like that, you get them for performing heroic deeds. You can store up to 3 hero points. You start each session with 1. You can spend it to re-roll a check. Unlike in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, though, if you re-roll a check with a hero point, you have to keep the second roll, even if it's worse. Also, if your character is unconscious and dying, you can spend all of your hero points to stabilize, rather than having to make death saving throws.
And that's all of them, regardless of how many you have, as long as it's 1 or more.
If you have at least 1 hero point, you can spend all of your hero points. Yeah.
Cool.
We've done ability scores. We've done armor class. I decided not to buy any armor, which means this is my unarmored defense, which is my dexterity plus my proficiency modifier plus 10, so 15. I could probably do with buying some better armor, because 15 is not a great armor class. As we see with Burrick's attack, he only has to roll a 10 or above to critically hit me. And at first level, I will do hit points as well. I get 8 hit points from being a gnome, I think. And
Yep,
I get 8 hit points from being a bard.
And I get...
Plus...
It was here somewhere.
So for each class level you have, you get your class hit points plus your constitution modifier. My constitution modifier is currently 1, so I get 9 hit points for each bard level I have. You don't gain more hit points from your ancestry as you level up. You only get that once at first level. That means I have 17 hit points total, which means that if Burrick did attack me, did crit me, he could drop me from full health down to 1 hit point in one go.
Is a hell of a thing.
Yep. And that's not even counting your sneak attack damage.
I was just about to say.
I'm gonna widen this up, actually. Now that I'm not using Google Chrome, I'll
a bit more space.
1 second. There we are. It's a bit better. Okay. So we've got me hit points, we've got me armor class, we've got me saving throws. Your speed, my speed is 25 feet. You can also put in here if you have like a fly speed or a climb speed or a burrow speed. Most characters at first level won't. Some characters might. But yeah, if you're trying to fly, if you're trying to climb or swim, and you don't have a climb or a swim speed, you have to make athletics checks to do that. But if you have a climb speed or a swim speed, you only have to make athletics checks if you're doing something really taxing, like trying to swim against the current or up a waterfall or something.
Yeah, trying to do something difficult.
Exactly. So, we've done one of my attacks, the dagger. I could do another one, but it's pretty much it's the same thing as before.
Oh, mostly the same, yeah.
Yeah. Like, remember, for melee attacks, you usually use strength to hit, strength to damage. For ranged attacks, with a bow, with a bow or crossbow, you use dexterity to hit. You don't add anything to damage. You can get things like composite bows, where you add your strength to damage, and for thrown weapons, you add your strength to damage, unless it's a finesse weapon and you are a rogue. But usually you don't, like, usually the advantage of ranged attacks is that you're not putting yourself in danger, but you don't get to add your modifiers to the damage.
Fair
So
enough.
that's the trade-off.
That's good to know.
I'm proficient in simple weapons, barred weapons, and unarmed attacks. I've picked all my skills, so there you can see I'm really good at deception and diplomacy. I'm really good at games lore, really good at occultism and performance. I haven't picked languages yet.
Oh, yeah.
That's something that's not super important right now. I will get into that probably stream 2. Pathfinder 102 I'll talk about languages. But usually it's like each race of people has their own language. So the common tongue is shared by most people. Then, elves will have their own language. Orcs, goblins, gnomes, they all have their own language. There are languages for angels, for devils and demons. There are all those sorts of things. And there's also regional languages for the default Pathfinder campaign setting, which is the Age of Lost Omens. I think I will go into that at some point. I'll do a stream where I just explain the lore of Pathfinder. And I want to do world building at some point too, because that's fun.
World building is...
I've got my class feats and abilities. I picked my muse. I got my versatile performance, and my ancestry feat. I get an animal accomplice. I didn't really explain familiars. All you really need to know about familiars is they give you special. They grant you special abilities just by being nearby, but they can't do anything in combat. You get to pick 2 special abilities every day for your familiar. And they could be things that alter your familiar, like giving your familiar an ability to fly, or an ability to burrow, or to see in the dark, or things like that. Or they could be abilities for you, the familiar master. Those are things like you get to use an extra magic spell, or you get to gain some focus points back, and things like that. Skill feats, I've got Lie to Me starring Tim Roth, which I get from my background, and I don't get one for 2nd level. Burrick, of course, got a skill feat for his background, as well as a bonus skill feat, which would probably go in here for being a rogue, because rogues get an extra one.
Because we're just that cool.
Because you're just that cool. Here's what the inventory looks like. Your items in this game are divided into 3 categories. You have worn items, which are on your person, ready to go. You can retrieve an item that you're wearing with just one action. So if, for example, I had my sword in a sheath, that would be a worn item. And when combat breaks out, I only need one action to take my sword out of the sheath and have it ready to attack. So you have worn items. Held items are items that you have in your hand, ready to go. So if I'm in a dungeon and I'm walking around with a torch in my hand, I don't have to use an action to get that out, obviously, because I already have it. But you only have 2 hands, so you're limited in that regard. And then you have stowed items, which are items that are like in your rucksack or in a tucked away somewhere that you can't get to immediately. It usually takes a couple of actions to find a stowed item, so anything that you want immediately, you should think about either carrying all the time or wearing on your person. There is a limit to the stuff that you can wear on your person, but I'm not going to get super into that right now. You can usually carry like 1 set of tools and like, a weapon, maybe 2 weapons on your belt, things like that. You also have page 3, where you have your character's description, where you can put a little sketch. I'm not going to do any drawing. I could. I'm not going to. I would probably end up just drawing like Poppy from the Trolls film.
Yeah, that would work.
You can have an ethnicity, a nationality, gender and pronouns. This game is very inclusive. It makes very clear early on that they welcome people of all everyone. Because this game is for everyone, and you get to make it your own.
Yeah, I like that.
Personality, attitudes, beliefs, likes, dislikes. I like that they have this big box for catchphrases, as if every single character is going to have multiple of them.
Like Morbius and his famous catchphrase, "It's Morbin time."
Stand back, I'm beginning to morb. Yep. You can have notes for your campaign. Usually this is not enough space for notes for an entire campaign. The 3 players in my current game each have their own notebook. I always see them dutifully, when I'm giving them the mission briefing, I always see them dutifully scribbling stuff down. And then usually the notebooks end up forgotten by the end of the session. So, here's where you can keep track of actions and activities that are not standard. So this is the... that's enough. No more BS. That's a good catchphrase. Honestly, the version of Morbius that people have created on the internet is just so much better than whatever the film could be.
Yeah, I know. I haven't even seen it. I've decided it's my favorite film.
Yeah, I think you're not alone there. We've also got actions and activities that you get from other things. So this would be, for example, if you had picked, hang on, I'm gonna move this up, and I'm gonna make it visible. So let's go back to Rogue for a second. Because there were a couple of things that Rogue was able to do, which you would put in this sort of section. There was Nimble Dodge. I'll open that in a new tab, and I'll open Twin Feint. Thank you. Yes. So if we had Twin Feint, for example, you see that's 2 actions. It's a feat. So what we would do is we would put it in here. We would say Twin Feint actions 2. Actions 2. And you can also include a page reference for the rule book or whatever. And in free actions and reactions, we would have like tumble. What was it called? Tumble.
Oh, catfall?
No, that's not what I was thinking of. I mean that works. Catfall works, but I was thinking of this one. Nimble Dodge.
Nimble Dodge.
Nimble Dodge, the railway cat.
So
that's where that would go. Nimble Dodge. So for all your for all of your actions and activities and reactions that you get from various class features that aren't like the standard ones, that's where they go. And page 4 is the page 4 spells, and I went over a lot of detail about how to cast spells, but I didn't actually look at any specific spells, and now all of my energy is gone. I don't particularly want to go through the Bard spell list and explain what all of them do, but like this is where you put your spells. You can keep track of all the spells.
We are coming up on 4 hours. So,
we have been going for a while, haven't we? Anyway, yeah. So you get to have. I think you start off with 2 spell slots as a bard. So you keep track of them like this. If you're a spontaneous caster, you fill in this row with how many you have left. If you're a prepared caster, you can check these boxes to say whether you prepared a spell or not, and this would be your spell book. When you get to higher levels, you're probably going to want more than this amount of paper. And innate spells is where this would this cantrip for Burrick would go. Oh, and here's my focus spells as well. So that's that. That's the entire character sheet. And I think that's a pretty decent summary. It's a pretty decent summary. My character's name... Does Morbius have a real name, or is he just called Morbius?
I could not tell you. I assume his name is Morbius, and he has a first name.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what. Because I was thinking about Poppy from Trolls, I'll call him Poppy Morbius.
Okay, that works.
And it's going to be... Hang on. It's going to be... I'll pull it up in a second. Just imagine as Dr. Michael Morbius. Okay.
Morbius.
Not anymore. It's Morbin time. Stand back. I'm beginning to morb. Wait. I'm beginning to morb.
That's it. No more BS.
No more BS. Yeah. So that's my character. Is it's this face, but called Jared Leto. There we are. That's that.
Perfect.
Right. I think we've pretty much covered anything. Burrick, do you have any further questions, or do you feel like, apart from like the specifics of combat and casting spells and things like that, you've got a pretty decent understanding now of how to play Pathfinder 2nd Edition?
I think I have a pretty good understanding. I do have one question.
Mm-hmm.
What is the wind speed velocity of an unladen swallow?
African or European?
Well, I don't know that.
Okay. Well, I think if that is the case, if we have pretty much covered everything, I'm willing to call it a night. Do we have any questions from the chat? I see we've got like 5 people in the chat. Have you all been following along at home? Have you all made your characters? I hope you send them to me on Twitter and like draw little pictures.
Because, surprise, you're all coming to the game.
Yes.
You better have filled them out, because we're using whatever you have written down.
Yep. But yeah, if there's no further questions, Your Honor, I'll give the chat like a minute to catch up. But while that's going, I'll like do the usual spiel. Boric, thank you very much for being my guest. It's been a delight to have you on. I'm sorry that so much of it was just me rambling and forgetting my words, but I'm really glad you agreed to join me for this.
This is pretty much exactly how I pictured it going along. Yeah.
Okay. Perfect.
Yeah.
Ideal.
Thank you for hosting me. Very nice.
Where can I think most of my viewers are inherited from you, but where can people find you? What sort of things do you like to do?
Well, you can find me over at Snuggly Burrick, twitch.tv/Snuggly Burrick. You can find me on Twitter at Virtual Burrick. It's Burrick. Other than that, yeah, those are my two main areas. I mostly stream. Well, I say I mostly stream stealth games. I lean towards stealth games, and recently I've been doing a whole bunch of puzzle games.
Like hidden object games,
Yeah,
stuff like that.
yeah, I love them. I love them hidden object games.
You should play Limbo of the Lost.
I really should. There's a big list of ones that I really should.
Oh man, imagine if they made like a stealth game, but where you weren't trying to steal things, you were just trying to like. There probably are like stealth puzzle game. Oddworld, that's a stealth puzzle game, isn't it?
Oddworld is a stealth puzzle game.
Hmm.
Most stealth games, from a really abstracted point of view, are just puzzle games, but the puzzle is figuring out
Yeah.
how to get from one place to another without alerting everyone.
Yeah, that's true. Metal Gear is like, I'm here and God is over there, and I have these tools at my disposal. How I do?
Exactly. But it would be kind of fun to have one that's more abstracted into an actual puzzle format.
Hmm. Yeah. I'll think on that. I'm not a game designer myself, so yeah.
I pretended to be for 4 years of college.
Nice. Do you have a piece of paper saying that you are one?
No.
Oh. Well,
Yeah, it's disappointing.
4 years
well.
of college well spent then. I mean, I spent 4 years of university pretending to be a historian, and at least I am allowed to put letters after my name. So
Yeah. That's what you really want.
yeah, like I could just sign all of my letters Jackson Muir MA, and people are like, ooh, he's got credentials.
He's got letters.
Yeah, we should definitely hire him to work at this fast food place. He's got lettuce. Okay. I can't see any questions coming in the chat. If anybody wants to talk about Pathfinder Second Edition, if anybody has any further questions, do feel free to DM me on Twitter. For those of you who are joining me from Snuggly Burrick, I am Jackson VTuber here and on Twitter also. So yeah, if you want to talk about stuff, feel free. This is just the first of many Pathfinder. Well, I don't even really consider this a Pathfinder stream. I want to do lots more tabletop stuff this year. We'll do like, I'd like to do world building streams. That would be fun. Definitely like more actually playing the game too. I'll gather a crack team like an Avengers of people to actually play this game with me, and we can give well, if you still like them, we can give Garandale a go.
Yeah. When do we get to the game? This is the game.
Exactly. All right. Well, if there's no further questions, I will probably I'll raid somebody.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea.
Zoe is streaming at Hat in Time.
I love a Hat in Time.
Yeah. Oh, she's got quite a few viewers already. I'm gonna send people over to. Well, if people want to go and watch Zoe Gauntlet Queen play Hat in Time, feel free. But I think I'm gonna actually raid somebody who's got slightly fewer viewers, because I think it's always nice to. I feel like Zoe's doing fine for herself. So I'll give some love to a streamer that doesn't do so much. That doesn't have so many numbers. So I'm going to send you all over to Bewitchment, who is a delightful frog.
I've been meaning to look at their streams.
Yeah, well, now's your chance.
Perfect.
Okay, so I'll send you all over there. Thank you all for joining me. This has been tons of fun, and I'm really glad that you all decided to stick around. Yeah, send me your characters ideas, and let me know if you want to talk about Pathfinder. I would really love to. But yeah, until next time, I hope you have a really lovely evening. Enjoy your weekend as well. I understand that learning about role-playing games is not the most exciting way to spend a Friday night, but I'm yeah, enjoy your weekend. Take some time for yourself. Rest, relax, recuperate. I am certainly going to do all 3 of those things. And yeah. Until next time, dearlings. Cheery. Now I just have to remember which button to press to actually end the stream. Cheery.